Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for an exciting game of international rugby. Argentina hosting the Springboks. What should be a pretty awesome fixture. It is outside of the Rugby Championship, but it is going to be the first Rugby World Cup warm-up game for both of these sides as we progress towards that Rugby World Cup in France. But looking through, first of all, at the home side for Los Pumas. They have gone with Thomas Gallo, Julian Montoya at number 2, and Francisco Gomez Cordella slotting in as the number 3. Rubiolo comes into the starting lineup. That is due to the injury that we did see last week of Lucas Paulos. It meant that they had to make the change. They also still do not have, unfortunately, Guido Petti available. And alongside him, I believe it's not Thomas Lavanini, but the other Argentine lock has also got a little bit of an injury, so that is why Rubiolo gets his chance. Thomas Lavanini at number 5 for the lock and duo for Los Pumas. Pablo Matera keeps a spot at number 6. Santiago Grondona at number 7. And Juan Martin Gonzalez slotting in as the number 8. So that seems to be the loose forward trio that they may consider heading towards that Rugby World Cup. The only spot that's possibly up for grabs there, I believe, with the way that 2 of the 3 men have been playing, is maybe that 7 spot for Grondona. In the future, Gonzalo Bertrano comes back into the starting lineup after coming off the bench in the last game. Santiago Carreras going to be the starting fly half. In this one, Santiago Chocaberez starts at 12 again. Lucio Cinti on his outside. And the back 3, we've seen quite a change here. Santiago Cordero at number 11. Emiliano Boffelli returns into the side at number 14, and then Bolgado gets the opportunity at 15 due to that suspension of Juan Cruz Malia. But that is the home side, Argentina, in front of a home crowd. It's going to be an absolutely electric atmosphere for this fixture. We got 23 for the Pumas, and the Springboks 15 is the prediction there from Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi. Also the bot from Lian Lu. And bro, how are you not tired, says Bulla Bro. I'm sure that the tiredness will kick in at some point throughout the night. By the end of this live stream, words will start to get a little bit more difficult, I would be thinking, but it's going to be a very entertaining one to see these two sides go head-to-head. I should mention that there are a few other games of international rugby taking place as we speak. Romania are taking on the USA, and then also England versus Wales, the other game that is currently taking place. We will keep you updated with the scores of those games as they do progress. Looking through at the Springboks starting lineup, they've made quite a few changes compared to what we did see in their last game of the Rugby Championship. Trevor Nakanye at number 1, Bongyum Banambi slots in at number 2, and Thomas Datoy at number 3 for them. So quite a different front row than what we've seen in any other game of the Rugby Championship. No Stephen Kitsoff, no Malcolm Marks, no Franz Malaharba, but plenty of players with a lot of desire to make it to that Rugby World Cup. Of course, the Springboks announcing their side on Tuesday, so they'll want to make the most of this opportunity. Jean Klein comes back into the starting lineup just like he was in the first game up against Australia, and Marvin Ori there as the number 5. Dion Fourie at 6, Franco Mostert number 7, and Jasper Wiese, the dangerous man, at number 8. They completely rested him in the last game up against Argentina, keeping him fresh for this one, which I believe was a good decision, as I'm hoping come out here with a hiss and a roar. Kobus Reinach takes that spot back at number 9. So out of these lineups that we've seen for the Rugby Championship, I would say that this one, to be honest, in comparison, is probably the closest to the first lineup we saw up against the Australians, with the fact that Kobus Reinach and Mani Lebok will be that 19 combination. Andre Esterhazen and Lukanyo in the midfield. Makazole Mapimpi out on the left wing. Cannon Moody out on the right. And Damian Valimza to close out the starting side. His first start at fullback for the Springboks in 2023. In the chat, we have got there, Hamish, doing a marathon. We certainly are. We have still got around that hour and a bit until the kickoff of this fixture, I should mention, but we've got plenty planned for this build-up. Looking through at some Rugby Championship stats and also keeping you guys updated with what is happening in England versus Wales. I hope that Fuff is playing, says Gail. He is not. He's not in the starting lineup, not coming off the bench. The halfbacks for this one, Kobus Reinach as the starting number 9, and then off the bench, they have got none other than Herschel Yankees. This will actually be his first opportunity of the Rugby Championship / World Cup warm-up games They haven't decided to use him. I believe he had a little bit of an injury, but he has got over that now, and he will be raring to go. For this one, I got the USA here on TV, says Robert. So yeah, it's great that we've got so many international games of rugby taking place. That one at the moment, USA have got themselves that advantage, sitting 12 points to 0 in England versus Wales. We are yet to see a try in that game, but the second half, they are just running out onto the field as we currently speak. Good morning from Aotearoa, says Jaden. Yeah, nice morning or nice early morning start for us fellas here in New Zealand. Game going to be kicking off at around 7:10 a.m, but we are starting nice and early to look through at all of the information we've got. But looking at the benches now for these two sides, Argentina, a few more changes being made here. Agustin Crevi at number 16, Joel Scalavi at 17, and Eduardo Bello, the number 18. And this match, Guido Peti and Fukando Isa, the other two replacement forwards. And this one, and Bazin Velez at number 21 did start the last game up against the Springboks. Thomas Albanoz at 22 and Matthias Maroni as the number 23. Joseph Dweber, Gerhard Stennekamp, and Vincent Koch will be the front row for the South Africans in this game. Jean-Luc Dupré, his first chance of the Rugby Championship / World Cup warm-up games. He's in a similar boat to Stennekamp. The big difference there between those two players, though, is Stennekamp came in as injury cover, whereas Jean-Luc Dupré, he's been waiting patiently to have some minutes for the Boxers. Yeah, Ivan Ruiz at number 20, Herschel Yankees number 21, his first game of 2023, Jesse Creel at 22, and Kurt Learinsa at number 23. So that means the likes of Avili LaRue, Cheslin Colby also going to be missing for the Springboks in this contest. Who else have we got in that back line? We aren't going to see Damien Dialendi. There's another one who is left in South Africa, and it will be quite a nice spell for some of those players. A lot of them who have been pretty much staying in South Africa, they've already got themselves their spot in the World Cup squad, and now it's just that case of waiting patiently for Tuesday when they do find out exactly how long it is till they go to France. It's oh so sad. Who is the scrum half in Faf's place? So they have gone with Kobus Reinach in the start, and then off the bench, they are going to be going with Herschel Yankees. Hey, Hamish, long time, good evening from Durban, South Africa. Says, not your everyday cultures. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are keeping very well. It's going to be an entertaining game, this one, between the two sides. I am more than excited for it, and I'm hoping both sides put on a good performance. Last time that they played, which was only a week ago, it was extremely close. Both sides having their errors, but also having some good moments throughout that game, and I believe that this one will be relatively similar in the way that we see these two sides play. Maybe a bit of a stalemate to start, and then the momentum may start to go on one side's favour. And hi from South Africa, where in the world is Aotearoa, so that is New Zealand for us Kiwis. And Wales are 6 and England is 9, says Richard. Yeah, so it's a little bit surprising that neither side in that England versus Wales game have been able to get themselves a try. We've just come off that Scotland versus France game, which was completely different going into halftime. We did cover that game on the channel. It was an absolutely awesome game to watch. Just seen that Ludlam has knocked the ball on for England. That's not ideal for their scenario. Both sides wanting to build that momentum heading towards France in the near future. But speaking of heading towards France, the Springboks, their next games in international rugby. They have got the game up against Wales on the 20th of August. So that is in 2 weeks' time. The date is, or the day is confirmed on Sunday morning, New Zealand time. That'll be Saturday evening, South African. The time is still to be determined, but could be a very exciting game. And I believe, depending on how Wales go in this game up against England and their rematch next week, they'll either come into that game in form, or they may be coming into it looking for that form that they require. New Zealand versus South Africa, 6:30 a.m. New Zealand time on Saturday morning for the 26th of August. It's going to be an absolutely awesome game. These two sides have faced each other in the Rugby Championship. We know how physical they can be. We know that that game, unfortunately, is probably going to involve at least a couple injuries. And both of these sides, they don't want to lose players just before that Rugby World Cup. We saw in the most recent game between New Zealand and Australia, Braden Ennor picked up an injury. Brodie Retallick also picking up one for the Australians. They've lost 3 tight head props in the last little while, in Alan Alalatoa, Tani Alatupo, and then also Ponefa Masili ended up with a bit of an injury in Bledisloe Cup match 2. For the South Africans at the moment, Oxnard still yet to return from injury. Sia Khaleesi the same, although I believe he is still going to be travelling with the squad to South Africa, even if he isn't going to be playing. And they've got some big games coming up for Pool B. South Africa taking on the Scottish in the first game, who just managed to get themselves that upset win over France. Then Romania at 1 a.m. on the 18th of September, and then that big game up against the Irish. In less than 50 days, we get to see the two sides go head-to-head, which is absolutely awesome. For Argentina, they've got a little bit of a different road towards that World Cup. Their first game will be up against Spain, once again to be determined with the time of that one, and it will be played in Spain. So a great showcase for some of those Spanish players. England versus Argentina, 35 days away from the opening game of their Rugby World Cup pool. And this is going to be great to see how they do progress towards that World Cup. Argentina, I would have to say in this game, I'm hopeful that they will put on a good performance. We have got there, thanks Hamish. Says Gail, no worries at all. I thought the game starts at 9 p.m. South Africa time, says Albert. It certainly does. We've got a lot planned for this build-up. Also, letting you guys know what is happening in the other international games of rugby as we get that little bit closer towards the kickoff of this match. Not your everyday culture, says the Springboks were disappointing last week. Argentina impressed. Now they have the home ground, so I wouldn't really be surprised if they win. But I think the Reinach-Libok combination is much better. And I think for that combination, adding Willie Leroux in is actually a very good choice as well, because he seems to be able to work extremely, I guess, effortlessly with Mani Libok, even though those two haven't really played together too much. In the first game up against Australia, that combination was one that looked like it could be for the future, although the problem that they've got in that case is that Willie Leroux, he's getting a little bit closer to the end of his Springboks tenure. So they'll be hoping that this game with Mani Libok at 10 and Damian Malimza at 15 does actually lead to a little bit of some Stormers magic like we've seen throughout the URC. Of course, Stormers doing very well in the last couple of seasons. The Wales versus South Africa game is on the 19th, so 20th for you, and is at 3:15 p.m. Irish time. So I believe that that would probably be a 2:15 a.m. kickoff, similar to what we saw for Scotland when they did take on France just a little bit earlier on. But then after that game up against England in the opening game of the Rugby World Cup for Argentina, we get to see them take on the Samoans. That will be at 3:45 a.m. New Zealand time. Argentina versus Chile, that is at 2 a.m. New Zealand time on the 1st of October. And then on the 9th, they do play the Japanese. So the one game that we didn't get to see in the Springboks overall table, I believe I had their schedule here, but the last game that you don't get to see after Scotland, Romania and Ireland, they have got Tonga just a little bit further down in just over those 50 days time. But the Rugby Championship, it was an exciting competition. We in the end got to see the Springboks finish second in the overall standings. New Zealand getting themselves 3 wins from 3, little bit similar to what we saw in the Pacific Nations Cup for the Flying Fijians when they were able to beat Samoa, Tonga and Japan. New Zealand 3 from 3 though. South Africa getting themselves the 2 other victories over Argentina in a close fought game, and then that one-sided affair with the Australians. So they finished up on 9th. Argentina finishing in 3rd on the 5 points. But one thing about the Rugby Championship, you don't really want to win it the same year as a Rugby World Cup. The only side to successfully win the Rugby Championship and the Rugby World Cup in the same calendar year is that side that you can see are sitting in second. And that was the Springboks 2019, a brilliant side throughout that year. And they certainly will want to make sure they win the Cup this year as well. But Argentina, they probably finished a little bit higher than some people anticipated due to that win that they had over the Australians, making the most of the opportunity. And they will want to do the same for this one. Brilliant try just scored by Wales. For anyone who was watching along with that game, they will now take the lead for the first time in that fixture over the English. And I'm sure they're very happy about it. USA currently sitting 12 points to 0 over Romania. But these were all the international games that are happening throughout the next maybe 12 or so hours. We are currently sitting about here in the overall standings. So we're getting closer to Ireland versus Italy, which will be kicking off at 7 a.m. New Zealand time. And then just a little bit later, we've got the Argentina versus Springboks game, which we will be covering on the channel. But anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Got plenty more action coming in the near future, whether or not that is the Rugby Championship next season. We've got the Rugby World Cup where we are covering every single match. And then also a few more warm-up games for these sides in the near future. And speaking of those warm-up games, this is the schedule for what it looks like next week. Thursday, we do actually get to see Tonga versus Canada. Once again, to be determined just at this stage, but I'm sure as we get a little bit closer to those dates, they will start to be confirmed. So that's a Thursday game for us here in New Zealand. On Sunday morning, Georgia play Romania. Portugal, they'll be taking on the USA. And then also England versus Wales, the rematch of this contest where currently Wales do have themselves a 13-9 lead. France have a rematch up against Scotland. That game is going to be played in France compared to the game that we just saw, which was played at Murrayfield. And then Chile, they will be taking on Namibia. So it's great to see so many international sides getting these warm-up game opportunities before the Rugby World Cup. This game is actually considered as one of those matches, although it kind of feels like more of a rematch of the Rugby Championship. We normally get to see these two sides play each other twice in a calendar year. We still get to, it's just not quite part of that same competition. We have got there Argentina, let's win, let's sing louder, sing loud, says Caden. And Argentina there and in the box also win the Tri-Nations in 2007 as well, says Not Your Everyday Cultist. Yeah, although I guess the Rugby Championship stage with Argentina involved as well is that 2019 one. But yeah, 2007, the Springboks, they're a dangerous side. Anytime a World Cup is on the horizon, they know what they need to do. They know how to build up chemistry and they know how to put together big performances in the important matches. And I believe that that is what the coaches are doing here. They're working out what players are going to be making their way into that squad that's announced on Tuesday. And will they be the best team that they can put out there? Quite possibly, other than maybe a couple injuries along the way as well. Wales just got the first try, says Richard Hardy. They did indeed. Seeing quite a few changes being made by Wales in that game up against the English, where it does currently sit 13-9 in favour of the Welsh. What happened with the New Zealand versus Australia game? First half was surprising, although I'm under the impression the All Blacks were fielding a B team, says Not Your Everyday Cultist. I think that game was a massive wake-up call for a lot of people because for so long, definitely this year, people have looked at the All Blacks and gone, they're in terrific form. They could put anyone on the field and they would do well. And the problem is, that's what they tried in this game up against Australia. They made 12 changes compared to last week. Australia only making maybe about 3 or 4, and a couple of those were actually due to injury. All Blacks making 12 changes and positionally changing Will Jordan from 14 to 15, and the chemistry wasn't there, even though they had 17 out of the 23 men on the field who do play for the Chiefs or the Crusaders in Super Rugby Pacific. But I feel like it was a good learning lesson for the ABs that they can't underestimate anyone that they play. They have to make sure that they are still putting some of those strong players out there. Yes, this was more of a trial for the Rugby World Cup selection that's actually happening on Monday, New Zealand time, so they are doing it just one day before the Springboks do theirs, and we will get to see that a lot for quite a few teams in the near future over the coming weeks. Get to see the 33-man squads that they are going to be going with for that Rugby World Cup. Argentina from Caden and the chat as well. He's very happy about it. He's got the trophy for them finishing third. And then as soon as they brought on the A team, they started playing well again. Says Not Your Everyday Cultist. Yeah, they did start to find a bit more chemistry in that second half, and you know, a few of those players, Summer Penny-Finau, he was on debut. To be honest, the second half, I think, was actually what possibly got him a spot in the ABs, although it's going to be very tricky for them to decide who to go with in that back three, because Caleb Clarke, he's been out of form, but he seems to be one that Ian Foster does like to go to. You've also, alongside him, got quite a few other great players in there, whether or not that is going to be Lester Whainarnuku coming back from injury, Amoni Narawa as another guy that they may look to. Will Jordan, I think they'll either pick him as a 14 or a 15, but either way, he will find himself there. They're playing Bowden Barrett at fullback. So there's about 3 or 4 players, Sean Stevenson included, that are all going for that same spot. And to be honest, for the Springboks, I feel like they're in a little bit of a similar boat when it comes to their loose forward trio at the moment. There are so many players who can play well there, same with the lock to a certain extent. But they've got Dion Fourie, Maka van Staden as 2 6 options, Jean-Luc Deprez just returning into the side for his first game of 2023. Mostert can play 7, You've got Quaka Smith, Jasper Vesa, Dwayne Vermeulen, Evan Ruiz. I don't see all of those players getting the opportunity, unfortunately, to play for the Springboks in France. So it's probably that big question of who are the players going to be that unfortunately lose their spot along the way. And hey, Peepa, hey, Hamish, says Charles, welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing extremely well. Should the Boks be scared of a Scotland that beat the French C team? Says LB, I think Scotland, we'll be honest, they didn't play their best game throughout that 80 minutes. But the fact that they were willing to dig so deep in that contest when France easily, if they wanted to, and if they did play like they did in the first half, could have walked to victory. But Scotland, when they got their red card, it's as if it just lit that fire underneath them. And they just kept on going and going. Update on Wales versus Ireland, please. Time left. Says Steed, so it is Wales versus England. 53 minutes gone in that contest, and it is currently 13 points to 9 in favour of the Welsh. So they've got themselves a 4-point lead, although England now going to be on attack here once again. I think it's going to go down to the wire, though, similar to what we saw for Scotland versus France. Argentina, says Caden there, and the combo, says Charles. So yeah, combos are going to be very important. Chemistry, sometimes underrated in a game of rugby. That usually happens with red cards for some reason, says LB. Yeah, some sides do take that backward step when they end up with a red card, and other sides just fire up to beyond belief. And that is something that we did see in this contest for the Scottish. When they were down to 14, they just pinned their ears back, they dug in, and they decided, right, we're up against it here, we've got to try and fight. And that's exactly what they were able to do later in that contest. Evening from Dublin, says James Cody. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing well. That France versus Scotland game just shows the true depth of French rugby at the moment. Their schools rugby and junior system is incredible too. And I think that under-20 World Cup really showed that as well for the French. They are going to be one of those sides that no matter who they put out in the field in the next maybe 5 years, like people like to say C team, B team, A team, and all of those terms, but at the end of the day, a lot of those players who people are calling the C or B team today, they're going to be in that A team in the near future. I can tell you that because there's a huge amount of talent coming up through those French rankings. Thank the Bok for these cross-field bombs that everyone is now using. Teams need to get AFL coaches and for the aerial battle now, says LB. And morning from Fiji, when does the game start? Says Amori, we are actually pretty early for this contest. It is going to be kicking off at 7:10 a.m. New Zealand time, so in about an hour and 15 minutes. Like I mentioned, we are early for this one, but we've still got Rugby Championship stats that we are going to be looking through, and also keeping you all updated with what is happening in this game between Wales and England, currently sitting 13 points to 9 in favour of the Welsh. And isn't it like 3 under-20 champs in a row for France, says Not Your Everyday Cultist? And yeah, that doesn't happen by mistake, does it? That happens because they are certainly progressing brilliantly. I know that South Africa overall, their kind of younger system is praised quite a bit. But it just seemed to be in that last World Cup, they weren't quite able to get the job done. Now, I'm talking the under-20s. I know that the Springboks managed to get themselves the Rugby World Cup before anyone gets angry at me. And hi from Colombia, go the Boks, says Neil Harvey. And also thanks, Boat, says Steed, and Boks will go back to type for the World Cup. We won't be running as much and we'll be kicking much more, says LB. And the thing is, those first, I'd say the big games for South Africa are still Ireland versus Scotland, or those two matchups. And if they can get themselves at least one win out of those two, they should theoretically make it through to the next stage. And then that is when we'll start to see, I mean, that game up against England was the perfect example of tactical play. Just ended up breaking down the opposition. What's your prediction for this game, says James Cody? I'd like to think it's going to be a relatively close one, although a lot of these young Springboks players, they are looking for World Cup glory and they want to be in that squad that is announced on Tuesday. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see an absolute blinder from one of these guys, whether or not that is going to be Canon Moody. He is one player that I feel really needs a big performance here. They've also, alongside him, got, Dion Forey. He's a player who's always very underrated for the Springboks, does brilliantly throughout the URC for the Stormers, getting a whole heap of turnovers, although comparing him to Marco van Staden does just get that couple more. Gatlin has replaced both his props, says the conversation station, and a box 17, Argentina 12 for Andre Vermeulen's prediction, Henry Thomas, former England, is on for Wales, says the conversion station. And be good for Wales to get a win, to be honest, says Albert. Yeah, we'll build them confidence as well. And it's the battle of the two new coaches in that contest, with Borthwick going head-to-head with Warren Gatland. So hopefully both of them can find their feet as we get that little bit closer to the Rugby World Cup. We're only about 30 days away from the opening games, which is absolutely awesome. Like I mentioned, South Africa, their first game, it is going to be head-to-head with Scotland. It is going to be taking place in only 36 days' time. New Zealand versus South Africa, though, one of the warm-up games of the Rugby World Cup. That game is also going to be absolutely electric. And I mentioned about it how both sides are going to pick up probably at least one injury from that game, which is a real shame. Hopefully, it's not going to be one that's too serious, which sounds like a bold prediction as well to say there will be an injury. But throughout the last games of the Rugby Championship, and in fact, most games from around the world, it just seems to be the case of injuries are coming thick and fast for a lot of different sides. I think we are going to see a whopper of a game between the Bok and Argentina. Argentina wants to go to France with their tails in the air, says Steed. I want to say that the Bok schoolboy rugby is very good, but from their most recent or junior players stay in the junior system of the clubs, but many of the French juniors play professionally after school. And you've only got to look at someone like Tuolangi at number 5 for France, who's an absolute unit. He will be in that French international side in the near future, I can tell you that much, because he is a real talent that could help them in the near future. I think we are going to see a whopper of a game between the Bok and Argentina, says Steed. And knowing Rassi and JN, they already had the Bok squad locked in end of last year, says Albert. Although you never know, maybe one or two players were still a little bit undecided, because we know we're going to see a lot of experience for that Springbok squad when it is announced. Whether or not that is going to be a few of those older fellas like a Faf de Klerk, like an Ebenezer, Malcolm Marks. Also alongside them, you'll have Willie LaRue, he's a guarantee, I believe. Makazole Mapimpi, a little bit more of a question mark, but I think because of what he was able to do for that last World Cup, they will still put him in. Who was surprised to see Bongi Manambi being captain? I certainly am, says Charles. I mean, it was one of those ones that, looking at the caps of the players that are remaining, the other option I thought might have been Lukanyoam, just because he has done a little bit of captaincy for the Sharks in the past. George North now getting very close to the try line for Wales in that game. Keep you updated whether or not they are able to cross the try line, but they're looking aggressive here in the second half, Wales, which I believe they need to be. Argentina, says Caden again, and Dan Bigger and Thomas Williams are on for Wales as Warren Gatland switches his halfbacks, says the conversation station. Yeah, the switches for the Springboks in this game, they don't actually have a specialist number 10 who will be coming off the bench. Instead it is Jesse Creel, which I believe will be a midfield replacement. And then on the other side of things, they have got Kurt Learinsa, who I believe will come on for either Kanamudi, or maybe they even consider that reshuffle of giving Kurt Learinsa an opportunity at fullback just to see how that ends up going. Hamish, what do you think of the Stormers resigning Warwick Gallant? I haven't really read too much into it at this stage, so I probably can't comment on the reasoning behind it. I don't know whether that's based off maybe form or whether that's based off something that's happened off the field. George North just scored for Wales, so they are now sitting 18 points to 9 up over the English in their summer series. I'm not a Warwick fan, but he is still pretty good, so great. He's back in South Africa. Oh, sorry, re-signing rather than resigning. Sorry, my brain didn't work there. For half second, I've picked Arm over Bongi as captain, but maybe the captaincy gets Bongi to throw straighter. Says not your everyday cultist. Although it's going to be a lot of pressure on Bongi on Umbanambi to get it right, because if anyone knows about not throwing line out straight, unfortunately it's the man who's coming off the bench, that being Joseph Dweber. And Wales got a second try, says Richard. They certainly did with George North. Conversion successful. And Wales now sitting 20 points to 9 up over the English at this point of the game. Still 22 minutes remaining in that one. And sorry, re-signing, says not your everyday cultist. And also name never wins a game. A magic of a side do, says Rebel. But sometimes the problem for sides can be they do want to go with those players who have created magic before. So the likes of Makazole Mapimpi, a lot of people would agree currently for the Springboks, he hasn't been in the best form for 2023. Has he been bad? No. But has he been that clinical try scorer that we have seen in the past? Unfortunately not, which makes it tricky for South Africa because they will have him in the plans of what they want to do for this World Cup. But when you've got Kurtley Arunsa, who had that spot in the first game, gets himself a hat-trick, that makes the coaches a little bit, I guess, indecisive in that regard. But the fact that Kurtley Arunsa going to be coming off the bench in this game, I feel like that is once again going to be a good opportunity for him, seeing as he wasn't quite able to perform in the game up against Argentina last week. And Hamish, you still on my lines here? Either that or great minds think alike, says Charles. And hello, Hamish Bro, says Michelle. Welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing extremely well. And we have got there, Mapimpi also didn't see much ball either, says Albert. And it's going to be one of those cases of the coaches will look at that and go, was it because of the play or was it because of the way we were playing? Because for Makazole Mapimpi, when he gets the ball, no one can deny how dangerous he can be in terms of creating line breaks, getting that ball out the back line and just creating a real opportunity for the Springboks when they're on attack. But the problem was in those last couple games that he's played, they've only got the ball to him maybe once or twice, which makes it pretty tricky. Mapimpi has to lay a claim to the wing position in this game, or he may not be going, says Charles. And the tricky thing for Makazole Mapimpi is Kurtley Arunsa. He's waiting on that sideline. He's going, if you mess up, Mapimpi, I'm out there and I'm going to try and take your spot from you, because I believe that Kurtley Arunsa will also be going to the Rugby World Cup squad on Tuesday. We may actually do a little bit of a live stream before that squad is announced where we have a bit of a chat about who we think will be making their way through for the Springboks. We're thinking about doing that same thing for the All Blacks as well when they do announce it on the Monday. 22 now points for Wales, although it is sitting 20-9 in my one. So I believe that that would be the correct score. You have a point there, Hamish, about Dweber. Although in Dweber's credit, his lineouts, I believe, have got a lot better in the last maybe 6 months or so. Throughout the URC, it didn't seem to be as inaccurate as it was the year prior, which I think is exactly what they needed for South Africa, because, or else I'm not actually sure who they'll be going with. I know that Dion Fourie still has that hooker throwing in his arsenal. And Irish Bro in New Zealand, 6 a.m. time in the morning, it certainly is, which means we're only an hour and a bit away from the kickoff of this contest. We've already been doing this live stream for 30 minutes, and to be honest, it's felt like 5. The only thing that's struggling is my voice at the moment. Cheers, that bottle is going to be empty by the end of these streams, I can tell you that much. And Moody versus Mapimpi, I reckon. Moody can cover fullback, however Mapimpi is a specialist wing, says Charles. And us Aussie announced our squad on Tuesday, says it was Jasper. Do you know what time on Tuesday they will be announcing it for the Aussies? I know that New Zealand on Monday at 5 p.m. I know that South Africa are going to be between about 2 and 4 a.m. New Zealand time on the Tuesday. In fact, it will actually be Wednesday morning for us here in New Zealand. But a coffee will get you going, Hamish, says Charles, although I don't actually drink coffee, believe it or not, which I think some people think that I'm lying because I have random energy at this hour of the night. But I think it's just because of the rugby. Every time I think about these two sides playing, I get a little bit more of a smile on my face. And at the moment, England versus Wales, it's been a very entertaining game. 20-9 at the moment in favour of the Welsh. And 6:30 Australian time, I think, says Jasper. So that would work out to be 8:30 p.m. New Zealand time. So a little bit later than the Kiwis. In fact, that will be a day later than the Kiwis and a little bit. A nice Chococino with Red Bull on the side, says Albert. Am I weird for never have trying a Red Bull? I know that that's another one that people judge me for. I just don't really have many caffeinated drinks, which I feel like for the amount of late night live streams we do, seems like that doesn't work hand in hand. And good time to start, says Charles. And also we have got there, Rins has found out, or has been found out a little on defence. A high ball against the AB, says Albert. Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle for him in that game. But I think the benefit that he's got, he's actually not as young as I thought he was, though, I will mention, with Kurtley Arunsa. I believe he's about 28 or 27, somewhere around there. I thought that he was still around that same age as Moody, like maybe 22, even though Moody's a little bit younger. But I thought he was early 20s, but he's actually a little bit more experienced than I thought. Red Bull and vodka is life, says Hensel. Although I know of someone who drank about 3 or 4 vodka Red Bulls in one night and ended up not getting much sleep throughout that evening because he was shaking frantically. And you guys know him as George, one of the other Kiwi lads. Arinsa just offers a little more than Mapimpi, can cover 13 and 15, and has a better step and arguably better in the air, says not your everyday cultist. Yeah, so with the fact that he is better in the air, I think that it certainly plays into the favour of the South Africans. And I think he's going to be tested in this game because Argentina will look to go to the sky quite a bit throughout the game. Charles has said hot chocolate or Horlicks. Also good. Red Bull can be a bit hectic if you never tried it before. Can even give you heart palpitations, says Charles. So yeah, I think that's why I stick with water. It seems a lot safer than caffeinated ones. Looking through at South Africa though, we've talked about their current squad. We've talked about that rugby championship. A few of the past games that they've had. We might as well show you what the scores were in those fixtures. South Africa in their first game up against the Australians, they were able to win it 43 points to 12. Quite a one-sided affair compared to what some were expecting, but South Africa, they were clinical in that game. We saw a hat-trick from Kurtley Arinsa, which was absolutely phenomenal work from the youngster out on the wing, really cementing himself as one of those bocks to watch out for. For New Zealand versus South Africa, the game just felt a whole lot different, and even though that first game, a lot of people were trying to say it was the South African B team, the South African A team, per se, for this game up against the All Blacks just weren't able to fire in that same way people expected. Whether or not that was Damien Dialende and Lucanio Arm in the midfield just not quite gelling the way that was expected. Cheslin Colby was relatively quiet out on the wing, but when he got his opportunities, was able to get himself a try in that one. The end score 35 points to 20. The All Blacks starting that match extremely well. The Boks finishing it well once they brought that bomb squad on the field. And in this game, in fact, that was the last game that we saw from South Africa this year at this point, that they went with a 6-2 split. The other game, South Africa versus Argentina, they actually went back to the 5-3. They managed to win it 22 points to 21. So an extremely close game between the two sides. South Africa narrowly hanging on, making the most of their opportunities when they came around. And unfortunately for Carreras, his kicking tee just wasn't quite as successful as he would have liked it to be throughout that 80 minutes. In the chat, we have got their hot chocolate, says Hensel. And also we have got their Hamish Rowe New Zealand teams at Rugby World Cup definitely contest should Australia or South Africa at the semi-final match. Yeah, there is a chance that we see South Africa versus New Zealand as a semi-final, in fact, as a quarter-final in the Rugby World Cup, which seems absolutely incredible if that is going to be the case, and almost sad in a way that we get to see those two sides face off so early. But then the next time that they can face, I believe, is actually the final for New Zealand versus South Africa if they don't meet in that quarterfinal. So both sides, they will be eyeing top of the table for their group so that they don't have to face off until that a little bit later. Not sure what the outcome will be, says Hanger Rat. And also, Kurtley Arinsa played sevens for a long time. That's why he came in at this age. And Bok defence out wide isn't about making the tackle, but rather stopping the momentum, says LB. And Kurtley Arinsa and Herschel Yankees both made their names in sevens rugby before progressing to the 15-man game, says Charles. I see 32% of people think Argentina are going to win the day. And that's the thing. This game, since that last contest where Argentina were close, I feel like they're always underestimated, the Pumas. But South Africa in this game maybe are getting a little bit underestimated too, because they have got so many class players who will be in the starting lineup, opportunities to try and get their World Cup spot. The ABs, or if the Boks are serious about beating the ABs, they will have number 12 Andre Estes and number 13 Damien Dialende and number 14 and 11 Jesse, says Albert. So those are 3 positional changes compared to what we would normally see from the Springboks. So that's pretty bold to make that many changes. Is that going to be in that warm-up game that you would think they'll go with that? Andre the Giant is a must at 12, I think. He has power and a good touch/offload game. I think he was phenomenal in that first game up against the Australians and was very unlucky to miss out on the next 2 games. I kind of thought that they'd go with him in the last week's game up against Argentina rather than Damien Dialende, seeing as he had just come back from injury, but he did miss out in that regard. He's a fantastic player though, Andre Estes, and plays well for the Quins, and I expect a big performance from him here. I'm hoping that I'm not expecting too much, but if he's able to put on a big game here, he's definitely going to that World Cup, I feel, for the Boks. Could be one of those real impact players. Quagga Smith, also from the Sevens Rugby, says Charles. And Watcher Hamish says, Darren, welcome in, mate. Hope you are keeping well. Moody makes some massive hits for a lanky winger, says LB. Yeah, I think he's deceptively big and he's deceptively strong for him, because a lot of people see him and they go, oh, he's quite tall and he's quite slim, so maybe won't be able to put in those big hits. But if Moody lines you up, you're going backwards. And I back Moody also, says Albert. And this will be a hungry Bok team. Many players there to stake their claim, says Charles. Exactly right. Similar to what we saw for the All Blacks in their game up against Australia. This is the opportunity to say we are going to be in the World Cup, or we are going to be in that World Cup squad. Why are you guys talking about Red Bull? I prefer really good, proudly South Africa red wine, says Jacqueline. Does that have caffeine in it? Hopefully not. I think wine and caffeine would be a terrible mix. And Moody reminds me of JP Peterson, says Albert. And South Africa have chosen a fast team, says Robert Wood. Yeah, they've gone with plenty of pace in that back line. Crash ball of Andre Esterhuizen. He's going head-to-head with Santiago Chocabarez, which I think will be fantastic to see. No, says Jacqueline. So yeah, we were talking about the caffeinated drinks, which is why we were talking about Red Bull and coffee and whatnot. And Hamish, at what time South Africa time is the kickoff? So it is less than an hour from now, about 58 minutes or so. So I guess an hour from now is the best bet to work it out. And I think it's going to be a 9:10 p.m. South African kickoff time. Kitsov had a really good game last week. Wasn't it like 4 turnovers, says Not Your Everyday Cultist? He's been impressive in the breakdown. And I've said it all throughout the URC. I've said it all throughout when he has been playing for the Springboks. You can't shift that man. When he's on the ball, he ain't letting it go, and you aren't moving him, which I think a lot of sides are now finding out. Malcolm Marks falls into that a little bit of that same category. I like Moody. He has great potential, says Charles. And I think he's struggled a little bit at international level at the moment, Canon Moody. But I think that if he can get it right, see, that's the thing. How many players are they going to be able to take from that back three? Willie LaRue, I believe they'll be taken. Marnie Libok, he's confirmed as well for the back line. Esterhuizen, Lukanyuam. GC Creel's a bit of a 50-50, I'd say. And in a way, him and Moody might almost be fighting for that same little bit of a back replacement role. Esterhuizen will walk it. Here's a beast at centre, says Charles, and I hope we win this one. I hope the ref makes good calls compared to last game for the South Africans, says Warren. And I'm glad the Boks props are getting rested, says LB, and he and Marks hunt the ball well as a pair. And do you think South Africa will do, or how do you think, or what do you think South African will do in the World Cup? Well, I assume that they will be able to get out of that group. And if they don't, I know there'll be a lot of angry people, because they've got Scotland and they've got Ireland, which both sides very good on their day. South Africa as the defending champs. I feel like it's one of those scenarios how they're pretty much expected to make it out of that group with ease, but I think they'll have a couple challenging games along the way, but that may help them further down the World Cup draw. I agree. He still has to make the step up conclusively. Hamish, says Charles, and Creel is 100% going, says LB. Yeah, because the Springboks, I believe they had if I'm not wrong, it was about a 39, 40-man squad for this rugby championship. So the fact that they have to lose 7 of these players, some of which have already been taken out due to injury, but there's a lot of players in this game that I believe this is their big chance, the big trial to try and get into that lineup for the Springboks. And Andre is huge. Dame Dialende is better at verbally organising the backline defence, probably why Rassi favours Damien Dialende at 12. Says Albert, will this be live streamed? Sadly, we are unable to show match footage or audio due to licensing, but we will be doing the play-by-play commentary for throughout this match. And I'm glad the Bok props are getting rested. And also, it's going to be good to see Gerhard Stennekamp get that opportunity in the starting lineup, off the bench, mainly because we haven't seen a huge amount of him. He plays well for the Bulls, though, in the URC, and seems to be that transition between the URC and international level. It's slowly getting a little bit closer because of the level that the URC sides are being able to play at. Moody is a future superstar, says Hensel there, and I really hope Pollard returns soon, says Not Your Everyday Cultist. Currently 10 minutes remaining in the game between Wales and England, 20 points to 9 at the moment in favour of the Welsh at Principality Stadium. We definitely need Polly, says Albert, because there's been talks about Andre Pollard coming back for, is it just before the World Cup or just after the first couple games they're expecting to see Pollard be able to make his return, which I think will be big for them, although the question mark will it be too close to some of those important games for them to get him back into that starting lineup, because you would expect a little bit of rust for Andre Pollard, seeing as he has been out for quite some time. Steenkamp is like 135 kgs. He's a big man. Interested to see how he goes, says LB. And Scotland looks good this year as well. We'll have to see what Ireland does this weekend. And the Boks getting out of the group is not a given, says Hanger Rat. Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one up against Ireland and also the Scottish, who just got themselves a win over France. So they will be feeling confident building towards that Rugby World Cup. But just quickly, I've got one more little statistic, I believe, that I had here. Oh, no, it was actually the previous results. So we'll go on to the competition stats for the Rugby Championship. And there's a few interesting ones along the way. Argentina managing to score themselves 8 tries throughout this recent Rugby Championship season. Only the 3 games, so averaging about that 2.5 per game. They were able to score. South Africa, though, they have been able to score 4 tries per game in the Rugby Championship on average, 12 tries in total. So I would like to think that they'll be able to try and unleash some of that clinical try-scoring ability that they normally would have in the most recent, or in this upcoming game of the warm-up ones. That wasn't a sentence. My brain stopped working. England have such an easy run to the final, so he's not your everyday cultist. I mean, it's one of those scenarios. We could actually see a rematch of the 2003 final in a quarterfinal where it could be England taking on the Australians, which I think will be a very entertaining one when it does take place. Doesn't happen too often, but when it does, there are always those fireworks, and Argentina going all the way to the semis at least, says Albert. Although that group seems to be slowly closing in a little bit with Samoa doing pretty decently. It will be Samoa, England, Argentina, Japan, and then also, I believe, Chile, the last side in that group. I think the coach is saving Damian Valimza for the World Cup. He is such an underrated player. I love watching him carry the ball going, says Warren, although he has played him in every game of this Rugby Championship. He's given them a start up against the All Blacks. He gave him off the bench in the first game up against the Australians. Then also he was off the bench in the last game of... Was he? Was he off the bench in that last game? I think he might have been for Damian Valimza. And greetings, Hamish. Will you be watching Ireland... or will be watching Ireland versus Italy? Wanted to drop by and give the stream a like. Thank you very much, Mountains of Asylum. Hugely appreciated. And yeah, we will be keeping you guys updated with what is happening in that game as well when we do get a little bit closer. Hopefully the ref doesn't get flack from South Africa supporters today, says Ty Skipper. I think what I've been able to establish recently, no matter who's playing in a game, the referees are going to get criticised. And it's a little bit of a sad reality, because we were talking about it on the France versus Scotland game, that no matter what decision a referee makes, one team's not going to be happy. And I described it as one team's going to be angry when one decision goes one way. The other team's going to be angry if another decision goes the other way. So sadly, as a referee, no one really wants to be a referee at this stage, it would seem, because of the amount of abuse, unfortunately, you do get during the international game. And we're hearing all these stories of amateur referees getting punched by players and everything like that. And that's not what rugby's about. It was about a gentleman's game being played between two sides who just wanted to win. But now it's become the case of, there's a lot of players who just spend more time. I mean, at the moment, Bongion Manambi, from watching him in the URC season, he spends more time looking at the ref than he does at the breakdown. That's all I'm going to say, and he is the captain for this game, so at least he will be able to talk to the referee without getting himself in too much trouble. But yeah, it seems to be we've got a lot of player referees for all sides around the world now. It makes it very tricky for the referees. I mean, Brace and his team was bad. Even the Sighting Commission agree with us fans. Says LB, and the official Bulls website has Gerhard Steenkamp at 126.1 kgs, says Albert, but I'm sure he's had a few suppers since then, get him fired up for this one. And Box each new side each week, says a Rebel. And also wife is from South America, so we'll be supporting Argentina in this game, says Mountains of Asylum. and tired of us South Africans blaming the ref on everything. We had a terrible game last week, especially Faf. Says not your everyday cultist. And yeah, the good thing for South Africa was their bench. When they did make their way out onto the field, it did seem to just build a little bit more of something than we saw in the early stages. I believe Wales have almost just scored themselves another try in the game up against England, ladies and gentlemen. That would give them quite the handy lead. If that was the case, Fiji had a good chance to get out of the pool. They have been playing unreal, says Jasper there. We have got there, hey bud, this is unfair. But now our boys would have had a few brandies and a braai and bedtime. Now they got to go tackle and score, says Pubs of South Africa. Yeah, a little bit more of a late night game for you guys in South Africa. Although I am curious how many of your supporters did actually get up watching the All Blacks versus Australia. I know that was at about, it was an ugly time. I have to say it was like 4:35 p.m. kickoff, 4:35 a.m. kickoff in South Africa for that game. How many people were up watching along with it? Do let me know. And also we have got there, the only bad standout decision was the Grant Williams charge down. Says not your everyday cultist. And also, and just earlier, AB supporters were blaming the ref for the second half. Everyone does it, so give it a rest. Says hang a rat. And I was up at 4 Swiss time to watch it, says Hensel. It looks like the Welsh maybe have scored a try there. Yeah, 2 hands down on the ball for Lewis Rees-Zammit. I believe Wales are going to be walking away with a victory here in this game of the Summer Nation Series. So they'll be more than happy with the way they've been able to put together some performances in a row. But speaking of putting together performances, both of these sides, they've got a journey to the World Cup. 2 games for South Africa remaining after this one, and just the one for the Argentines. But looking through at the Argentinian starting lineup, it is going to be Thomas Gallo at number 1, Julian Montoya at 2, and Francisco Gomez Cordella slotting in as the number 3. Rubiolo, he will be starting at 4 due to the injury of Lucas Paulos that we did see in the last fixture, and Thomas Lavanini there at number 5 for the Pumas. Barba Matera at 6, Santiago Grondona at 7, and Juan Matan Gonzalez keeps his spot as the number 8 in this game as well. So they haven't made too many switches in terms of that loose forward trio. They want to try and keep it relatively consistent heading towards that Rugby World Cup. Rodrigo Bruni, I think, is a player who's been pretty unlucky in the last couple of selections, mainly because he played so well in that first game I felt up against the All Blacks, then has kind of been pushed to the side throughout a few of the other games. Gonzalo Bertrano at 9 and Santiago Carreras as the 10. I believe that will be the combination that they look to use throughout that Rugby World Cup. Maybe even having Nicolas Sanchez as the fly half. Santiago Chocabarez at number 12. Lucio Cinti on his outside at number 13. Then at the back 3, it will be Cordero at 11. Emiliano Boffelli returns into the side, and that is a big inclusion to have for the Argentines due to the kicking department just letting them down a little bit last week. They had got a couple more of those kicks. Perhaps the result could have been completely different. And Bogado, he will be starting at number 15 for Argentina. That is due to the suspension that we've seen on Juan Cruz Malia due to his tackle/hip thrust at Grant Williams, I guess, is the best way of describing it. We have got there, I was up at 3:35 a.m. in the UK, and the New Zealand and Australia game was at 3:30 a.m. here in Ireland, but I was fast asleep, so I missed it. Says Richard, and we have to be up to support the boys, says Dead Drop, and Aussie almost did it. Was a good game for the AB show and fight, says Hensel, and it's actually been 2 games so far in this Rugby Championship, in this round of just international rugby this weekend, that we've seen one side dominant in a first half and then the other side make a massive comeback and then manage to get themselves the win. It happened in the All Blacks game when they did play up against the Australians, and it happened in the Scottish game when they were playing up against the French. They were able to fire back the way that they needed to get themselves over the line. In the end, Zammit lost the ball, I think. Yeah, it was called no try, so currently 5 minutes remaining in that game, and Wales are sitting with a 20-9 lead. So it could end up going right down to the wire. No try Wales. And you Kiwis and Aussies are the most unlucky with the times. I was at the New Zealand-Argentina game at like 3 a.m. New Zealand time. Says not your everyday cultures. Well, anytime South Africa play in South Africa, it's normally around that 3 a.m. mark for myself. This game, it has taken place at 7:10 a.m., which wouldn't sound too bad if we had slept up till that point, but we have already covered Scotland versus France, Fiji versus Japan, and also New Zealand versus Australia today. So we're currently sitting around 18 hours of being awake, and we've still got probably another 12 hours or so that we're going to be up for before we end up going to bed. AB supporters cried from 7 to 11 over a forward pass. They have no leg to stand on about refs, says LB, and I set my alarm to get my fix, says Robert. And there's, I prefer Boffelli at 15. Well, what a boot from him, says Not Your Everyday Cultist. I would have loved to see Rodrigo Isgro get another opportunity in this game for Argentina. I felt he was strong out on that right wing in the second game up against the Australians, but they seem to not want to put him in. Instead, he is actually playing for the Argentina XV, who will be playing a little bit later on tonight or this morning, and that is going to be up against Chile for that one. So glad you don't have your Puma shirt on today, bud, says Pubs of South Africa. We also don't have the suit for this one. It's currently sitting -2 degrees where I am. So, the suit's well and good, but it's also quite chilly where I am. That's almost a pun for the last team that I mentioned. Playing Argentina XV, and England could not catch water standing in the rain with a bucket, says Hensel Bitsia. And I feel like that might be something that maybe they've learned off the Japanese at the moment. They were the same in their game. They just weren't able to hang on to possession at all because of all of the drop balls, and it always makes it tricky when you aren't able to hang on to a ball throughout a contest. Definitely at scrum time, if you're struggling in that department. South Africa's scrum, I'm curious to see how this front row goes, because it is going to be Bongion Banambi, Trevor Nakanye, and also at number 3, they have gone, that ball's popped out the back. Nick Berry almost getting bumped over in that game between Wales and England. But for South Africa, I might as well show their starting lineup while I'm at it. Thomas Tatoy going to be slotting in as the number 3. So our all-new front row. We've seen Bongion Banambi get himself starts in recent games of the Rugby Championship. Thomas Tatoy and Trevor Nakanye only coming off the bench. So this is a great opportunity for them to also put their hand up and say, if it's not going to be Kitsoff or Franz Malharba, we have also got what you need. And those two positions, Jean Klein at number 4 coming back in after a great game up against the Australians on debut, and Marvin Ori there at number 5. He's probably a player that some people didn't expect to get as much game time as he has had. Some thought RG Snyman may have been the option for this contest to go up against the Pumas. Dion Fourie, brilliant jackler of the ball for the South Africans, and also in the Stormers camp. He's one of the players who just always puts the body on the line. I say this about Dion Fourie all the time, but he is the kind of player that ends up with 2 black eyes, a bleeding nose, a busted lip, and smiles as he makes his way off the field going, I wish I could have done that for 20 more minutes or so. Franco Mostert, number 7, and Jesper Wiese. I think he needs a big performance, Wiese, for this game, because a lot of people are anticipating that Dwayne Vermeulen might be the starter for the Rugby World Cup. But if Jesper Wiese can show a really strong outing here, perhaps he is that guy that they will have come off the bench. Instead, Kobus Reinach and Mani Libok, the combination that they used up against the Australians. And it is kind of that case of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And those two worked very nicely with their chemistry in that first game. Up against the Wallabies, Andre Esterhuizen and Lucanio Arm in the midfield. Esterhuizen, I'm excited to see what he can do. I really hope he performs, because I know that a few people recently, they are now starting to like what he's doing at 12. He wasn't very liked for a while amongst, I guess, not just South African supporters, but in terms of international supporters. They seem to think that he wasn't quite the player that he needed to be. But I've been watching him for the Harlequins for a long time, and I hope that he plays well here, because he has got a huge amount of potential at inside centre. Lucanio Arm on the outside at 13, Makazole Mapimpi, Canon Moody, and Damian Valimza, the back 3. So actually that change of Valimza getting himself his first start of the year at 15, rather than Willie Leroux, who has been absolutely sensational throughout the Rugby Championship competition as well. And Ori has impressed me, says Charles, building great depth, says LB, and Box using 2 swing props, and that tight head madness, says LB. And Thomas the Tank Tatoy and Boffelli basically single-handedly beat the All Blacks in New Zealand dark times there, said Not Your Everyday Cultist. And also Locks are a good pair. And also these are the games for massive F-ups in England or France having a good World Cup. No one will remember losing a warm-up game, says Mountains of Asylum. And come on the Pumas, says Doggo there. And Dwayne Vermeulen will definitely start unless injured in the Rugby World Cup, because they did try him off the bench in that game up against New Zealand, and it didn't quite seem to have that same impact. Although, to be fair, when he made his way out onto the field alongside Peter Steph-Toy, alongside Malcolm Marks, those guys were the ones who were turning it around. But I think he has more impact when he does start a match, when he brings that physicality, might even be the captain for those World Cup games as well. It's day of upset. France was the upset, England in the middle of being upset, and they have now just been beaten, the English. It is going to be instead Wales who walk away with the victory in that game, 20 points to 9. I should mention USA versus Romania. It's currently sitting 31 points to 7 in favour of the US. And we have got there, I'm so proud of Mani Libok, maintaining his position at fly half, while Bongi Manumbi will lead the team out, says Conway. And Esterhuizen improved up in England. Got a kicking game and passing game up there. Just never had that before, which is why he wasn't picked, says LB. And the French played their 2 to 3 team, or 2nd to 3rd team. So not seeing the problem, or that game as a problem for them, says Enzo. I think the start of the match was definitely pretty awesome for the French. It was just that second half that people will be a little bit concerned about, with the fact that they weren't able to follow it up after starting so well. Unfortunately, they just didn't quite finish the job. Didn't mean the Puma rugby jersey, the Puma branded shirt. You forgot you were wearing the last game. Well done to New Zealand. Such a great game. Yeah, of course, the red Puma shirt that I have, or the hoodie that I did have a few live streams back. Congrats to Wales. Good win, says Charles. And also, haha, England, says Nazi Williams. And 21-14 is the prediction from James for this game in favour of Argentina, I do see. And also 27-19, the box to win, says Charles. And can we just agree that Romania have the best World Cup jerseys? Pull up a picture and see, says LB. Tell you what, some of those smaller nations, they have got the best kits. I'll be honest, like New Zealand's kit with the polo and the little bit of a design on it. I know that a lot of people are quite critical of that. Same with the Irish kit. People aren't too happy about what they've done with that one. But, you know, Romania, Portugal, they've got a lovely kit that I think might even convince some people to consider buying it, seeing as it is there. Need a countdown clock, mate. Says Henzo, how long till kickoff? It is going to be kicked off in only 37 minutes time. So here's the kickoff there, 7:10 local time, which is 9:10 p.m. South African time. 45 minutes to kickoff, says Charles. A little bit less than that, 37 for this one. And Bok winning 69 points to 0, or sorry, 69 points to 0. Says Leon, and I thought it was kicking off at 5 a.m, says Bonnie Ferguson. There was actually a bit of a time change of this game, I'll be honest, because it was initially going to be taking place at 10:10 a.m. New Zealand time. So 3 hours later, which would have been a midnight kickoff for you guys in South Africa. But then it did seem to get shifted back 3 hours. And I don't know whether or not that was actually the original time. Maybe someone just put it in wrong on all of the websites. But yeah, a little bit earlier. I don't think too many people will complain about that. And Bolt's alternative is atrocious as well, says Cited. And how does the rankings look like, says Joshua. So with the defeat of France in the rankings, I believe that they are still sitting in 3rd, but there is the chance that after this game, if South Africa are victorious, I believe they can leapfrog into 3rd on the overall rankings. But yeah, normally the easiest way to work it out is after all the games have taken place, they do get all adjusted. And subscribe if you haven't, peeps. Get this guy to 30,000. He deserves it, says Nazi Williams. Yeah, anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It is hugely appreciated being here with all of you lovely viewers. And the time was always going to be this current time, Amish, says Charles. Because I think I looked at Ultimate Rugby, I looked at Rugby Pass, I looked at Sky, I looked at the online Google one, and all of them about a month ago had 10:10 a.m. But then it was only very recently that I saw that Tribe in New Zealand about 2 weeks ago actually switched it to 7:10. Because this game changing 3 hours earlier is actually the reason that I didn't go to an engagement party, because unfortunately I wasn't going to be able to do both at the same time. Originally I was going to be going to the engagement party last night and then starting up the live stream about an hour beforehand on Sunday morning, but due to the time change it meant that I wasn't going to be able to do both. So that's how I know that there was a bit of a change in terms of the websites, and we mustn't get cocky. Bok fans, Argentina are hard to beat at home, says LB. The Argentina versus South Africa game was going to be at 11 p.m, but it was pushed back to 8 p.m, says Richard there for the time change, and this is going to be a good weekend for the Bok on the rankings if they beat the Argentine well, says Mark, although the opposite is also a factor. If Argentina are able to win this game well, that will change it up that little bit more, and perhaps, like someone mentioned, it's a round of upsets at the moment in international rugby. Watching the Scotland versus France and Wales versus England games, nothing flash there. Fiji can definitely beat Wales. Although it depends, because we've got to remember Japan dropped the ball so many times in that game up against Fiji. And Wales, we didn't see as many handling errors in their game up against England. As a Bok, I was impressed and concerned about Scotland's performance with 14 men on the field. They showed a lot of guts and determination after conceding those tries in the first half. Yeah, they just dug in deep. They were determined, they were focused, and they actually did play better with the 14 men than they did with the 15. So it's as if that was the little switch that they needed to make in their brain that then meant, right, it's game time. We have to make sure we go out there and we put on a performance in front of our home crowd. Because that's the thing, at Murrayfield, you never want to lose to an away side, and definitely not to a team like France, who have managed to beat them quite a few times in the past few years during the Six Nations. Would have been quite nice for Scotland to be able to get one of their own back. I should mention another stat that I saw from the Rugby Championship that I would like to bring up for this matchup. South Africa, for the metres carried throughout the Rugby Championship, they had 1,405. For Argentina, they had 959. So actually 500 or so metres difference between these two teams in terms of the amount of metres made for the Rugby Championship, reminding that they played the same amount of minutes. The difference, though, is the fact that South Africa are looking to be a lot more aggressive with the ball in hand this year compared to some of the past years where we have seen a little bit more of a kicking and territory game being played. But I don't believe they will try that in this game, because Kobus Reinach, he is one of those players who just loves to run the ball with the pick and go. Scotland prefer 14-man rugby, says Cited. We have got there, why is the All Blacks not playing next weekend? So they've got a bit of a rest. And then I think the next game for the All Blacks is actually up against the Springboks in about 3 weeks' time. So they've got quite a long break compared to some of the other teams. But yeah, that will be their last warm-up game before the Rugby World Cup. And then they're straight into the action playing France in their opening fixture. Mate, please tell me Sky called you up, the world, to be a pundit. Says Tom, they have not, no. I think I talk too much rubbish to be able to be on Sky, to be honest. Who gets over the gain line more between them, though? Says Cited. If we're talking about South Africa and Argentina, from the amount of carries we have seen, Argentina have actually had a lot more, 417 compared to South Africa's 343. So you would have to argue that South Africa is the side who are able to get over the gain line just that little bit more due to those metres being made. After seeing how the Scotsmen are played, I think anyone can say the World Cup title is wide open, says Mark. Yeah, and I think that is the best thing for World Rugby, is a game or a competition that no one's able to predict until they've seen a lot more games. Because we might see Scotland come out next week up against France in France, and they might put on a really good performance. Or it could be the opposite. Maybe France change a few players and they come out absolutely firing, and then more people will be questioning which way it's going to go. How's it going, brother? Says Maxi, welcome in, mate. Hope you are keeping very well. Hope you enjoyed the All Blacks game. Nice fight back in that second half. Yeah, there would have been some nervous times for the ABs throughout this one. Is there a team without foreigners? Says Doggo. I think the closest to without foreigners would be South Africa. Overall, I think this current South African side, the only exception might be Jean Klein, just because he has played for Ireland in the past at international level, but returning to South Africa because he does have the eligibility of being able to do so. And bro, you serious? Or you talk more sense than most of those guys dudes/dudettes, says Nazi Williams. In Argentina, yes. It's called the Boks and the Pumas probably too, says Charles. And Wallabies are more impressive against the All Blacks today, says Tom. Yeah, well, that's the thing. For the Wallabies, they have slowly kept on considering or kept on getting better throughout this Rugby Championship, which has been so important for them because, you know, we've seen 4 games now from Eddie Jones. And the fact that there's been that little bit of improvement each and every time, you know, it could be good news for them heading into that World Cup if they can have a decent game up against France in their other Rugby World Cup warm-up. And Jean Klein was born in South Africa, says Charles. And hi, Hamish from GQ, says Sean there. Is there a team without a South African, says Sheller? Northern Hemisphere-wise, it's probably a little bit more tricky to find. I don't think Australia have a South African that I can think of. And New Zealand, I'm not sure, unless you count Duplessis Karifi. But I think he was actually just named after a South African player because his parents liked him. And rugby needs more refs with a no-nonsense attitude like Nigel Owens. He took no crap from anyone, none. That's what's needed. Be the boss, says Kuno Weck. But the problem that we've got is referees try and do that and then they get told off by social media. Everyone says, oh, you're trying to be Nigel Owens. You know, you're trying to be too strict on the game. Just let it flow. And then all of a sudden, those referees start to disappear because at one stage, Luke Pearce was considered in that same boat of he's not taking any nonsense from anyone. But then if you get one decision bad, everyone goes, well, you're no longer a referee in their eyes. And then that's the kind of struggle of it. His father was South African, I think, Hamish, says Charles. And also we have there Romania, says Tom. And also AB's Less Foreigners, says Nazi Williams. Also a little bit earlier on we had, I might have read them all. Been quick. A Checker-led Pumas is a dangerous team to be complacent against this last few years. A box have to bring their ABCD game today, says Cited. And I think that a lot of these young Springboks players who once again are getting that opportunity here in a game that maybe otherwise they may not have had that opportunity to play in. This is where they're going to have to step up, and this is where they've got to confirm their spot in the Rugby World Cup. This is the last chance because the squad's being announced on Tuesday. Your only other option is injury cover, and maybe if there are any injuries in the warm-up games, you may get that call up. But the best way to cement yourself in the squad is have an absolute blinder here and make it so that the coaches, you just got to make it so it's undeniable that you have to be in that side. And I would say there's probably about 3 or 4 players in this lineup in particular that I'm looking at as guys who have to really try and confirm their spot, one of which being Dion Fourie. I'm not sure whether or not they have got a spot allocated to him as of yet, but I would say he is one. Andre Esterhuizen, I want to see him go to the World Cup, and I believe he should be able to, but he might be one that they're still looking at as a maybe. Canon Moody out on that right wing, I believe he needs a big game here. Didn't play the best up against the Australians in the first game of the Rugby Championship, sadly. And out of all the players on the field for that Australian game, he may have actually been one of the worst, sadly. So he needs redemption in this game. If he's able to do so, I believe the Boks will look to select him. But it's just the fact that the squads are going to be cut down that little bit more. It means that every moment is going to be crucial for these other players as well. AB's got a lot of Samoans and Fijians, haven't they, says Charles? We do indeed. And the Kiwi lad, with respect for your love of the game, how are you not tired after a full day of commentating and watching rugby, says Mark Steele. I think it's just from, to be honest, it's from just repetitively doing it. Over the last 3 or so years, we have had so little sleep over weekends that it's become almost like regular for us to go 24 hours without sleep on a weekend and just keep on going about our normal day. Like after this, it sounds really weird to say, but after this game, I am going to be filming a podcast with Rugby Itch. And then after that, me and one of the other Kiwi lads, George, we've decided we're going to go climb a mountain. We're going to go up a running track, which shouldn't be what you want to do after about 24 or so hours of being awake. But it just seems like it's a good opportunity. It's going to be a nice day. It's still dark outside. It's going to be light soon though, so that's good news. Hopefully the sun comes up and it gets to a little bit warmer than -2, but fingers crossed. And actually to group, it's a nice South African name. It just came later on, says Mark Steele. And also I don't understand why we as the Boks give guys time knowing they are not going to be chosen for the Rugby World Cup squad. Why not give the guys that's going enough game time so they can gel, says Denver. It's a great question. And it's probably a good point to make as well. It's all about building chemistry heading into that Rugby World Cup. But I guess in some regards, if there's someone who they're a little bit on the fence with and they're not sure whether or not they want to take him, they're also looking for those backup options just in case there are those injuries. You know, we could see maybe that game up against Wales. What do they do if they lose Lukhanyoam to injury, if they lose Malcolm Marks to injury, Kitsoff, if he got injured? They've got to find those next guys just in case. I believe that's why we're seeing the likes of a Herschel Yankees get the chance in this game. We're also seeing the chance for Gerhard Stennekamp off the bench. And then also Jean-Luc Dupré, another player they haven't really used a huge amount of, but they will be trying him out, see how he goes in this one. Yep, South African names originated from the Dutch. So it's actually a Dutch name, says Mark Steele. And the Groot's parents are Dutch, apparently, not South Africans, says Charles. And Hamish, your commentary is brilliant. If Sir George is climbing a mountain, please make sure it's ambulance accessible. Well, we did try and go up it the other day, and it was way too slippery, so we were not able to do so. So hopefully it's a bit drier today. Hardcore, mate. 24 hours of streaming, then go literally take a hike. Yeah, it's an interesting tactic, I would say, but the rugby just wakes you up. It makes you just want to go outside and just not go for a run per se, but just like walk around a little bit. I guess that's from also sitting on this chair for so many hours doing the streams. Bring back George, says Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi. The only slight problem we've had is so many games have been taking place at night time, and he isn't available for those nighttime games. And then the afternoon game today, he was actually working during, so he wasn't able to come around for it either. Do Springboks here favourite to win this, or Argentina have outside chance? So the Springboks do come into this game as favourite, but the thing is, last game, I think, was the perfect example of anything can happen in one of these fixtures. And Argentina were right on the cusp of walking towards a victory in that last game. South Africa, I believe they will be a lot more clinical in this contest. Speaking of the Dutch, where are they on the world rankings? The Netherlands, where are they? I think they're maybe about 35 if I had to guess. But I can't quite remember where I've seen them before. In fact, they may even be a little bit lower than that, I would say. They have more than an outside chance since they are playing in Argentina home game, says Charles, and RGs have a chance, but the Boks will take it, says RG Bargy. So do let me know your score predictions, ladies and gentlemen, for this matchup. Is it going to be a close game? Are we going to see a one-sided affair? Do let me know. But currently we are only 23 minutes away from the kickoff of this game. It's going to be entertaining, like I mentioned. England versus Wales was a good game. Scotland versus France, fantastic game. Australia versus New Zealand, to an extent, a good game as well. And think we'll see the real Boks lineup before the Rugby World Cup? Probably not, no. Unless they try it up against Wales, I think would be the only game they will try it. They won't want to risk it in the game up against the All Blacks. We may get to see a little bit of a makeshift side in that regard, saving the players for that first game up against the Scottish. And the Dutch have always produced good kickboxers, though, says Nazi Williams. That bottle was not as full as I remember it being. And do the All Blacks beat Australia? They did. In the end, they were down by quite a bit and then managed to fire back and get themselves a massive victory. Pumas could potentially give the Springboks a hiding, says Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi. Your prediction to the Springboks versus All Blacks in London, still a very hard one to predict who will be walking away with the victory. We'd have to see the sides and how many changes both teams are going to be making before making the assumption of who we think will be there. And were Wales good or England really bad? From what I saw, I think Wales were pretty decent. First half, no one was able to score a try, so that was probably a testament to both sides' defence, but also attack may have just been slightly lacking. I'll have to watch a full match replay of that one just so that I know exactly how it did end up going. I only really got to watch moments of that contest. I agree. I think the Bok coaches are holding their cards close to their chest, says Argy Bargy. And the Boks lost for the first time against the Pumas in Argentina. So if unpredictable was a game, this would be it. If the Boks play bad, this game is the Pumas, says Mark Steele. And we haven't really seen too many changes made by the Pumas in their starting lineup. The concern for them, though, would be the fact that they've had to change, or they have changed, all of their back three. Cordero at 11, rather than Mateo Carreras, who I felt was actually going very well throughout the last little while. Emiliano Boffelli comes back into the side. He will be at number 14. And then Bogado at 15. That is due to the suspension of Juan Cruz Malea. In the 4-pack, they have made that change of Rubiolo into the starting side that was due to the injury that we saw of Lucas Paulos. And then also we're seeing Bertrano get the spot back in the starting lineup rather than Bazin Velez. But I think that that will be a very good change to make for Argentina, because late in the game when Bertrano was on the field, I think that that made the big difference. And disgraceful how Adesanya upstaged Drekis. Yeah, they've got a big rivalry going at the moment. Drekis Duplessis, I should say. He's a fantastic fighter, and I think he is going to be a real challenge for Israel Adesanya when they do fight, if they fight, that is. By the sounds of it, Adesanya, there was a chance he was going to be fighting Sean Strickland in Australia. But there was also another young fighter on that card from South Africa, if I'm not wrong. I think it was Salman, maybe, was his last name. It was a younger guy in a lighter weight class than Drekis Duplessis. Some of you guys may know him. If you do know him, let me know. And All Blacks rely on foreign players, says Jomo Williams in there as well. And looks like a fairly experienced squad the Pumas have as starters, says Cited. So yeah, other than those three at the back, which I think Emiliano Boffelli is a good option to have in there. And Pagado, this is going to be a massive test for him. And I'm surprised that they didn't go with Emiliano Boffelli as the 15 out of the two that they could have. Etzebeth is a Tongan Samoan / Fijian, says Sam there. And Herschel Yankees, Jesse Creel and Kurtley Arinsa can come on in the back line, says Conway Rudolph. And yeah, going for that 5-3 split rather than the 6-2 that we would normally see. Cameron Saman, that's the name. Yeah, he looked good in his debut, didn't he? So maybe we get to see a few more South Africans making it into the UFC in the near future. Because there's Drekis Duplessis, there's Cameron Saman, there's another fella as well, I think, who was already in the UFC. But I can't think of his name. I think he's in about maybe lightweight, somewhere around there. Which teams have the toughest draw to make it to the semis in the Rugby World Cup? I would definitely say the side of the draw was South Africa, New Zealand, Ireland and France on it. They have got some tough challenges ahead. Even when you get through those quarterfinals where you will be facing probably one of those four sides that I just mentioned, it does not get any easier. But all of these sides, they know what they signed up for. They want to walk away as world champions. And the saying is as follows: to be the best, you got to beat the best. No one wants the easy breeze to the Rugby World Cup final. Yes, on paper, people say I wouldn't mind having an easy road to victory, but it's those roads where you hit the bumps and you get put on the back foot, where the tyres pop and you have to try and pedal uphill with no tyres at all. That is the type of game that makes a world champion. And South Africa, they have shown time and time again that when their back is up against the wall, they will go for it. And at least this game is at a better time for you, not during the graveyard shift like last week, says Steve. True, although we did stay up all throughout the night doing other international games of rugby. So I guess in a way it's almost later than the graveyard shift, seeing as we have been up for around 19 hours at the moment. But it seemed like a good idea at the time, I have to say. I always love watching me late night rugby. Steve Hamish, already done a couple graveyard games today. Says Nazi Williams, and Ireland-France box. AB's probably the hardest route, says Albert there. And the Pumas 29, Bok 25. It's a prediction from Roof. I think this game is going to be a cracker. And yeah, the good news is it's only 15 minutes away. The coverage in New Zealand is just about to pick up. It should be absolutely fantastic. But do let me know, ladies and gentlemen, of the players in this lineup, who are the ones that you feel will definitely step up? Because there are a few who have a pretty decent rugby championship competitions, whether or not for the South Africans, that is. Someone like, I mean, to be fair, Marvin Henry has actually been pretty impressive for the amount of time that he has played out on the field. Andre Esterhuizen, he's only had the one game. So wait, Santi Cordero is going to score a couple of times. Says Jose Maria. I mean, he's a decent player out on the wing, that is for sure. Although the question mark is whether or not he's able to get that momentum after not playing in the last game. Hey man, Springbok have a problem with fly half, says Sergio. I think, to be honest, Marnie Lebok throughout this rugby championship has shown that he should be the starting 10. It's that next option for if Marnie Lebok is rested or if he's injured. Because when Pollard returns, they will go back to Andre Pollard, I believe, with Marnie Lebok maybe coming off the bench or vice versa. But yeah, I think Lebok's done very decently at number 10 for this rugby championship. And he's probably going to be the one that they look to throughout the Rugby World Cup games. Warren G and Dove Shacks and the house. Wales, says Blues Nate. And just wait, Santi Cordero is going to score a couple of times. And also whoever comes out on top in the pool of death deserves to win the whole competition, really, says Cited. Although we were talking about this on an earlier live stream as well. Is Pool B the pool of death? Having South Africa, Ireland, Scotland and Tonga. That sounds pretty tough to me. But then there's also other groups that, in regards of team status and team ranking, Pool C looks pretty hard to pick. Because of the fact that, I mean, you've got all these sides that are very close. Australia, Wales, also Georgia, a little bit of an upset side perhaps, and Fiji. It's going to be quite tricky. Pool D also looks relatively strong. I think the easiest pool is actually Pool A. But then if the Italians are able to fire, who knows how it goes. The Rugby Lad, you look like a guy when you aren't watching rugby, you're probably playing Elden Ring. I've actually never played that game. Fun fact. I think there's just one game in there for Elden Ring. Or is it Elder Scrolls and Elden Ring the same thing? I've heard of Elder Scrolls, but I'm not sure if that's Elden Ring as well. Fun fact, the most recent game that I played on the Xbox was actually golf with my dad. So I feel like that's not a bad game. Overall, my putting was just as bad on it as it is in real life. And summertime in the Wales BC, says Nuzzy Williams. And Coding has said Australia has got the easiest draw to reach the semis along with Wales or Fiji. And Ireland, I think, will be the World Cup dark horse team. They can be dangerous, says Sergio. And we're going to get to see them in action. Actually, in 4 minutes' time, they will be going head-to-head with none other than Italy. So that will be a good testing point to see how the Italians are going as we get that little bit closer to the World Cup as well. But for South Africa, throughout this Rugby Championship, they have had themselves 2 victories, 1 defeat, sitting currently on the 9 points on the overall Rugby Championship table. South Africa versus Australia was a one-sided game between them, 43 points to 12 in favour of the Boks, 35 points to 20 for New Zealand in that next game. The one loss for the South Africans in the Rugby Championship, and then South Africa versus Argentina to close out the Rugby Championship competition. It was extremely close, and the fun fact, these two sides get to play right now to see how close they can make it once again. For Argentina, in their most recent game, they were extremely close. Like I mentioned before that, the same. 34 points to 31, only split by the 3 points, and then in their first game, a very similar scoreline to what we actually saw in the game between Australia and South Africa in round number 1. This game being pretty undifferent in that regard, and it's 41 points to 12. They are just showing the two sides in the changing sheds. Looks like South Africa for this game will be wearing the home kit. Argentina wearing their away dark blue with the white stripe right down the middle. Yeah, I like that. Nuzzy Williams, Wales, BC. And usually the big team that is in the same group as the Boks go to win the competition. If not, then the Boks win it. That's how it's been so far. Interesting. So is that saying that Ireland have got a very good chance, or perhaps Scotland after their most recent win over France, who will win the championship? It's tough to pick, but I think it is going to be someone on that side of the draw with France, South Africa, Ireland, and New Zealand. I would say that is going to be the best bet. What about the incident with Williams on the 1? Or Valimza? No, Williams or Valimza? Was it intentionally? Oh, sorry, Grant Williams, that is. My apologies. On the number 15. I think that it was a really unfortunate scenario that ended up with, Juan Cruz Malea. I don't think there was any malicious intent in the way that he did it, but he did still get that body position wrong, ended up cleaning up Grant Williams, and I'm very sad for Grant Williams because I hope that it's nothing too serious. Hang on, is South Africa, they're wearing their away kit as well, are they? So both kits are going to be alternative for this game due to the Springboks kit overlapping with the Argentine home kit for their away one. Why didn't both sides just stick in their home kits? That would have made it so much easier. Or are you not allowed to do that? I assume they're not allowed to do that. They might get in trouble. The Springboks making their way now out onto the field for the Springboks, like they've said the first time for Bongi Mbonambi that he has led the Springboks out onto the field, looking through at his box side in this contest. Trevor Nakanye at number 1, Bongi Mbonambi And number 2, of course, as the skipper. And then at number 3, Thomas Detoy, his first start of the Rugby Championship / Rugby World Cup warm-up game. Jean Klein, after a great performance from him in the first game up against the Australians, he now gets himself that another opportunity. Marvin Ori at number 5 will be looking to have a real impact throughout this fixture. Dion Forey at 6, Franco Moster at number 7, and Jasper Visa slotting in as the number 8. Kobus Reinach at 9, Mani Libok 10. So that combination that they did have up against the Australians. Andre Estaiz and Lucanio Arm in the midfield. Makazoli Mapimpi, Cannon Moody, and Damian Valimza there as the back 3 for the Argentines. The home side here, they have made a few changes, mainly in their backline. Thomas Gallo, Julian Montoya, and Francisco Gomez Cordella at number 3. Rubiolo at number 4 due to the injury of Lucas Paulos, and Thomas Lavanini slotting in as a number 4. Pablo Matera, Santiago Rondona, and Juan Matan Gonzalez, the loose forward trio. Gonzalo Berfrano and Santiago Carreras, the 9-10. And then also Santiago Shochabarez, Lucio Cinti midfield, Cordero, Boffelli, and Bogado at the back. Two sides making their way out. Are you going to do Bunnings NBC? We're hoping to do some of the games throughout this season, but not for Sunday, mainly because at that stage we would have been up for about 27 hours. Get Yankees back at fly half and put Fuff Black back during the scrum half duties. Don't let Fuff kick with that gorgeous hair, says Roof. And are these kit colours for the colourblind people, says Cited? Maybe, although it does seem weird that Argentina aren't wearing their home kit in this case, but that is because of the Springboks having to wear their alternative kit. There was actually a press conference earlier when the neighbour said Williams is going to be okay. Says Mark Steele, and come on, Bok, you can do it, says Samuel and Pablo, the Cantabrian. Yeah, he did spend a season at the Crusaders. And to be fair, he had a decent enough impact there. It's actually quite awesome seeing so many of the players from the Crusaders playing at international level now. Not just for the All Blacks, whether it is Sione Havili Talatui playing for Tonga in the most recent games of the Pacific Nations Cup. And who's Wales what? Scotland what? Dragon, says Roof. Yeah, it's been a game of upsets, or a round of upsets so far for international rugby. But the South Africans now singing the national anthem, and then we will be underway for this exciting matchup. But do let me know your score predictions in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Who are you saying will walk away with the victory here? Is it going to be the South Africans 2 weeks in a row, or can Argentina cause that monumental upset here? Marvin Ori focused alongside Jean Klein. I feel line-out time is something that the Springboks will look to use to their advantage. They are able to do so. Could be effective. Springboks, says Sergio. Andy Farrell looking nervous. Oops, wrong game. Says a Blues note. Of course, Ireland taking on Italy at the same time that this match is going to be taking place. We'll be keeping you updated with the score in that game as well. And come on, Argentina, break out into a haka, says Nazi Williams. And well, just saw the England-Wales result. What a shocker, says Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi. It's going to be awesome seeing those sides play again next week and see how much the game has changed. Because Scotland play France again, that time in France. Next game for England and Wales will be played in England. Springboks by 12, says Mark Steele. I believe in my original prediction, what did I say? I think I said the Springboks would win this game by around that 14 or 15 mark. There is only one place I can watch, or this is the only place I can watch rugby or listen nowhere else, says Dylan. So I hugely appreciate you being here. Hope you have been enjoying the coverage. South African national anthem has been sung. Now we are going to see the Argentine national anthem, and then we are ready for this game of the Rugby World Cup warm-ups. The first of 3 for the South Africans, the first of 2 for Los Pumas. Their next one up against Spain, taking place in about 22 days' time. South Africa, and they're from Labakwani. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you are doing well. Fleshin is here in the chat as well. The Argentine national anthem. Quite a few changes, like I mentioned, in their starting side compared to what we did see in the last match, including an all-new back 3, which they may look to use either in the kicking department. Emiliano Boffelli, he's going to be the goal kicker, I believe, for this match. Alan Says Blues Nate, and why would an RG win be an upset? It's an Argentina and Box B team. Says Albert, I mean, that's the thing though. The B team for the Springboks, yes, they are missing a few of their players, but I would still call this well and truly a capable side of getting the victory. Because when you look at it, it's the same side roughly with a couple of exceptions that beat Australia 43 points to 12. And then people were starting to say that the game up against the All Blacks, the players who were playing in that game, they played as a B team, which involved Ibn Etzebeth, Malcolm Marks, Dwayne Vermeulen, Peter Steph-Toy, all the big names. So I think it's one of those ones that, like, this is still the A team. For the Springboks, if you're in the Springboks, you're the team. And you're the world champs, and you should be able to get a victory over any side in the world, no matter who you have out in that starting lineup. And that is the mentality that these players will have. That is the mentality the coaches will have. They will not go into this game thinking, oh, we might win it. They want to go in there and they want to get themselves that big win. I'm definitely going to subscribe. Love the content, man. Keep going, says Dylan. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi, for that super sticker. Hugely appreciated, mate. I'm glad to see you have also been enjoying the coverage. But the Argentine national anthem, it is one of the longer national anthems around the world. But we are almost to the start of this contest. I will mention again, anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Giovanni has said, I agree with your view. And did they start, says Savage? Not quite. We're about a minute away. Thomas Lavanini, a tear in his eye, ready to go out there and take some Springboks heads off. Unfortunately, him and Marcos Crema, they both go to the same anger management. And former Blues boy Tane Plumtree, play for Wales, and another solid player, Mason Grady. Ushi's a unit. And also we have got there from Ricardo, and that's so nice of Mumbo Jumbo Hey. He's just the most fantastic, awesome commentator ever on the airways. And go the Bok, say, I can't remember how to say it. Boriwus, was it? Or something last week, I remember we said it a little bit differently. Who is the referee? Says Giovanni. They are about to show him. I will let you know. I'm trying to think of all the referees we've seen throughout international rugby. We've seen Nick Berry already today. Ben O'Keefe we've seen. Carl Dixon we've seen. That must leave us with an Irish referee or a French referee, I believe. Possibly. And I am just watching from my granddaughter, or watching with my granddaughter again. Are you have a new fan? Says Joss Pike. I just showing the Argentine number 11, Santiago Cordero. Also the slow motion of Augustin Crevi making his way out onto the field for his 100th game for Los Pumas. And no yellow cards today. Please, we want to see some running rugby. It's got the perfect weather for it, says cited there. We'll have a quick drink before we get into the stream. My voice may disappear by the end of this live stream, so I do apologise for that if I sound quite croaky. Just because we've done so much talking throughout the day. We've already covered 3 games of international rugby. The stripe on Argentina kit looks funny, says Albert. I'm still confused at why they couldn't have their home kit and have South Africa in their home kit as well. But it's going to be a problem we see in the Rugby World Cup a little bit with certain sides going back to back. At the moment, Julio Monchon trying to give, not Julio Monchon, Julio Montoya giving a team talk. Eben better have his gum guards in. It's big hits tonight, and it was ready for South Africa. Okay, the referee in charge, it is actually going to be the Georgian referee. Amashtu Kelly, Andrew Brace, Chris Busby, the 2 assistant referees, and then the TMO. Also in play, hopefully not too much TMO needed for this game. Me and my fiance listening alone. When Villy catches the ball, please say Villy. Your favourite player, says Linus. Now I feel bad because Villy LaRue sadly not in the starting lineup or reserves in this one. I could possibly get a little bit of a stretch at Damien Williams, but I could possibly stretch it out a little bit too much. I'm sorry that hurt. Can you say Bry? Because we having Puma for dinner tonight, says Stan. Yeah, see, I used to say it as Borrowers, and then I got told off. And Ireland and Italy are both wearing their home kit, says Billa Bro. So yeah, it just seems to be this game for some reason that they haven't gone with the home kit. But it's going to be kicked off by Santiago Carreras. They have got just a little thingy that's come down the bottom saying there is no English commentary. So this kind of feels cool. Well, the actual commentary on the game for this one. But kick downfield from Cobus Reinach, just kept in the field of play by Emiliano Boffelli. Carrera shut down early and a great low tackle made by Cobus Reinach. Now, he is a sprinter and a half. Got that fast twitch fibre that we have seen. Have any Zulu play for South Africa, says Kerno Wick? Not too sure, unfortunately. My knowledge of the ex-South African players is not the best. I'm slowly getting there. And I from Chile, says Oku. Welcome in. Kicked up high now. Nicely taken at the back by Borgado, running onto that one. Now number 11, Cordero, has to play halfback, gives it across to Thomas Lavanini. Low tackle made on him by Trevor Nakanye, his first start of 2023. Did come off the bench in the last game up against the Pumas. Seemed to have a decent enough impact. Kicked high by Gonzalo Berrano, challenging in the air. Great take from Mani Lebok. Argentine player knocked unconscious, or at least knocked a little bit silly. That's almost the turnover. No, they're going to have to stop this. Unfortunately, this game, anytime these two sides play, we have already seen 2 knockouts in the last game. And now we've got another one here. How does this keep happening? Do you have sound problems too? I do. So we've got the game sound, but not the commentators. I can't actually hear them. How many more minutes are left? Currently, at this stage, 79 minutes remaining in this game. Seeing as we did start only the minute ago, but unfortunately, a knockout. Okay, they're just checking to see if it's foul play, but unfortunately, he just got his head on the wrong side, and that is Santiago Chochabarez. Has gone down hard, and unfortunately, I don't believe he will be continuing this match. Head on the wrong side. Something that you always teach the younger players is to make sure you're tackling with their head facing the outside of the leg so that you don't get your head in the wrong place. And unfortunately, this is now going to be at least an HIA and maybe even a stretcher needed on the field to help the man off of the park. Although he is now getting back up to his hands, he's back up to his feet. Santiago Chochabarez. He's going to be making his way off the field though, and already Matthias Maroni makes his way out there for the Pumas. So a lot earlier of a change than they would have liked to make. Italy is leading Ireland, and 1 down, 14 to go, says Stan. Although the problem is, last game it was 1-1, which means there's a Springboks player getting knocked out at some point in the future, if the trend is anything to go by. But we have had 2 games now where within the first 2 minutes of the contest, a player for each side has been knocked out. When was the next knockout? I think it was about 36 minutes and Lucas Paulos did end up getting dropped. And now the scrum feed, it will be for the Springboks due to the player being down and they had to stop injuries, or they had to stop the game due to injury. And go the Bok, says Julius, you've got this down, or you've got this, don't focus on the game against Wales. That is an easy win for the Springboks, but my worries is for Springboks, Grant Williams and Sia Khaleesi, says Conway, but the ball is now fed in. Cobus Reinach has gone down in the front row. But they do manage to get away to the right-hand side. Damien Valimza off now to Lucanio, arm out wide. Kanamudi, great step. Goes around the outside. Big fend. 3 in a row for Kanamudi as he moves up now to inside of the Argentine 22. There may have been a knock-on the ground from Cobus Reinach in the process there. Back to his feet, Jean Klein. Reinach going to Kanamudi again. He is playing like a guy who knows that this is his chance to get himself a selection in the Springboks team. Reinach, short ball there to Trevor Nakanye, up to 7 phases now. Back across, Thomas Tatoya, his first carry of the match. This is brilliant work at the moment from the box, just being able to get to every single breakdown with efficiency. Jasper Visa tackled low by, I believe that would have been Rubiolo. Nice step from Damien Valimza, but he is tackled low by Emiliano Boffelli. And vamos Los Pumas, says Mumbo Jumbo. Reinach off to Jasper Visa again. 5 metres out from the line. Nice bit of work there from Argentina in the breakdown, but don't end up with the ball. Reinach with the pick and go. Now Jean Klein decides to have the crack. In fact, it was Andre Esterhazen who went round the side. It's going to be the advantage for offside now against the Pumas, who are only 2 metres out from their line here. Round the side of the breakdown once more. Almost down, up, he's over the line. Wait, where's the ball? No, it's back. And Dion Fourie was shut down in the tackle by Rubiolo. Ball is available for the box. They should shift this one out to the left-hand side, because if they do, they should be able to score it, although they've gone round the side of the breakdown. They've been held up. And now it is going to be going back for the penalty. Is this the right game, says Dylan? It certainly is. The second match between South Africa and Argentina Always an entertaining game when they go head-to-head, and Boks look like Ireland, says Albert. Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of the Rugby World Cup kits. I assume that the Springboks, they might wear their... Oh, but the colourblind side of things is actually making it tricky for sides, I believe, in terms of who wears what kit. I think we might actually see the Springboks in their dark green for that game and Ireland in their away kit. Go the Bok, says Marthinus, and is this game on the 6th of August, 2023 at 9? Says Dylan, it certainly is. So we are 4 minutes into the contest currently. South Africa in the huddle trying to decide what they want to do here. I believe they will look to use the line out, although a team earlier on in Australia were actually penalised for taking too long at the line out. In the end, Thomas Detoye went for the crack round the side of the breakdown, was held up. At least I think it was Thomas Detoye. In fact, it was Jesper Wiese who had that crack and was held up. Love your commentary, dude. Always a joy, says Stan. Thank you very much, mate. Hugely appreciated. Looks like Manie Libbok will be taking on the 3 points here for the Springboks rather than going for the 7. Might be a smart move from the Boks. Get those early points on the board. It's still the 5th. And South Africa, says Albert. Oh, yeah, New Zealand, we're sitting on the 6th, aren't we? A little bit of a different time. The shot has been called. Uh-oh. Boot has come off for, I believe, Thomas Lavanini. The shoe size was not quite right, so he's decided he's going to get a different pair. It's like Steve Smith in the cricket. Anytime he feels like the boots or the gloves just aren't quite right, just gets a new pair. The sponsors will pay for that, of course. Manie Libbok, 21 points in his 6 caps. He's had a couple brilliant games of the Rugby Championship, and actually, I believe in the competition player stats, there's a couple stats that he actually pops up in. Just going to quickly look because I know that he was in the overall points. He's second for overall points in the Rugby Championship with 21. Meters carried, I believe he's relatively up there with 158. And he's beaten a few defenders along the way as well. But now Manie Libbok to line up this kick for the Boks and give them a 3-0 lead. I'm listening to some Michael Jackson and Thriller, says Ruth Carter. And the 5th in the UK for 4 more hours, says Kerno Wick. Now Libbok, he shanked that one off to the left. And it is going to be an unsuccessful conversion for Manie Libbok. Score remains at 0-0. Thank you so much for good commentary. Please ask Hazel to marry me, says Marthinus. Well, there you go, Hazel. Wait, is she next to you or is she like somewhere else and you're going to send her this clip? I feel like I need to know the scenario. I think that Peter Steph-Toy doesn't deserve to play at flank since he denied his own teammate a try against the All Blacks a few weeks ago, but Franco Mostert deserves that number 7 jersey, says Conway. Big run forward from Jesper Wiese. Now Reinach back to Manie Libbok, kicks it high, almost partially charged by Rubiola, moves up to the halfway line, taken cleanly by the Springboks, and they will keep possession 45 metres out from the Argentine line. Rush defence there from Julian Montoya, trying to shut it down as early as he can. Manie Libbok now back across to Lucanio Arm, quick hands to Franco Mostert, driven backwards in the challenge by Emiliano Boffelli, was then mounted by Kobus Reinach. Counter-ruck there from Argentina. Lavanini, pressure on him, driven into touch. Big contact there from Jesper Wiese. I got a little bit excited there. That was a massive shot coming in. South Africa overrated and overhyped at this moment in time, says Yetta. I would disagree. I think that a lot of people are saying that Argentina are going to be able to push them in this game, which I think is important heading into that Rugby World Cup. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be going into a World Cup overconfident. And I know for yourself, Yetta, you are a big fan of Ireland. You're saying they're going to walk through the competition, but you know, you've got to make sure that you still know that defeat is an option, and you've got to work out how to improve before that World Cup. As a side, I think every side, the best sides always have at least a couple losses along their journey to become world champs. We look at the Springboks. Last World Cup, they were victorious, but they did have a loss in one of the games building up to that final. Now, Santiago Carreras gives the ball away to Canon Moody, who is not on his team, so South Africa end up in possession once more. Manie Libbok, Waikato pass to Makazole Mapimpi, finds himself quite far off his left wing side, bumping off the tackle of Santiago Carreras. He kept the ball in play, Mapimpi, but there was a knock-on from Argentina, so it goes back to the South Africans now. And 5th in Chile for 8.5 hours, mate. Or, sorry, 8.5 hours more. Says Ockard, another penalty advantage, or in fact, it's a knock-on against South Africa, then a knock-on from Argentina, so Argentina will have themselves the scrum feed. Audio/commentary on the feed on Sky. Sports in the UK has poked. You're now synced with my picture and standing in for Sky Sport. Cracking job, thanks. Geez, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Normally people are like, hey, I might put you on as the commentary, but it's not all synchronized. So I feel like now I've got that big pressure. Hopefully doing all right. I have to make sure my resume looks good if you ever send it to Sky. Currently, it's going to be a scrum feed, but for anyone wondering about my time, for anyone who wants to do the same, I'm currently sitting 8 minutes and 5 seconds through the game right at that moment. They are just now going down for the first scrum of the contest. Now, throughout Scotland versus France, we could not see an easy scrum for either side. It was just always going down in the front rows, causing problems. This one now, a big chance to have a stable one. Argentina feeding the ball, a massive push there from the box, but grabbed off the back by Juan Martin Gonzalez. Carreras looping around, gives it back to Gonzalo Bertrano. Carreras stands in his halfback. Across now to Thomas Lavanini sitting on the halfway line. Carreras again considered actually playing half, but instead now leaves it for Gonzalo Bertrano, who puts up the box kick, looking like it's going close to the touch line, and it's out on the full from Argentina. Or is it? The referee says it may have just bounced in the field of play, although they may just check this one to make sure. And what a great day of rugby. What were your thoughts on the Wales win? Sorry if it's been asked. Could someone fill me in, says Mr. Fantastic AJ. I felt they played very well, Wales, in that game. I didn't get to watch the whole game, I will mention. But, it's off the knee of Damian Valimza. So that is why it was not out on the full. It hit Damian Valimza's kneecap. And now Argentina win their line out. Big shot there on number 13, Lucio Cinti, in the midfield combination currently with Matthias Maroni. Now Pablo Matera decides to just boot the ball out on the full. That was a bit of a strange tactic from the Pumas. They had that freebie to be able to have their line out, and they blew it. Unfortunately, just a mistake from the number 6. What about this win, Scotland over France? Tell you what, it certainly wasn't predicted with the way that game started in the first half compared to how it finished. There was a massive difference in the way that Scotland played. And when they had that red card, it seemed like it was going to be possibly the end of the game for them. But instead it became the start. And they really fired up after that point. Marnie Libok cross to Dion Forey, tackled in the middle of the park. And it looks like Reinhardt going for the little cheeky kick in behind. Makazole Mpimbi chasing it hard, but the ball rolls on nicely for Emiliano Borfelli. Now cleans it up just outside of the Argentine 22. Bertrano back into the pocket to Carreras, charged down by Marvin Ori, but the ball will just beat him. In the end, he almost had a charge down try. Now 5 metres out from their line. Argentina going to have the line out. Can we see what's happening? Sadly, due to licensing, if I was to show any match footage or audio, we do get taken straight off YouTube, so I do apologise for that. The highlights will be straight up on YouTube afterwards on the Rugby Championship YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. A lot of schoolboy mistakes already. Nicely taken that time by Pablo Matero. Flat pass across and big run for Dion Forey. Up for the contact. Does manage to shut down this Argentine territory game. Currently only 10 metres out from their own line. They're trying to make the kicking option a little bit easier for Santiago Carreras. I wouldn't mind seeing Emiliano Borfelli come in and maybe take one of those kicks, seeing as he has got such a long boot. But instead, it looks like Gonzalo Bertrano is going to go for the box kick. Hasn't found touch with it. Kanamudi now on the short side, breaking down the wing again. Big shot coming in on him by Bertrano, the kicker. Now Reinach, inside ball to Jasper Visa. Thomas Gallo trying to turn it over in the breakdown unsuccessfully. Now Thomas de Toy. A lot of big shots coming in early throughout this game. Reinach goes across to Marnie Libok. Damian Valimza, quick hands to Lucanio Arm. Thought about the offload on the outside to Makazole Mpimpi. Does for now just stay in the field of play. Libok, cross again to the big man Thomas de Toy. It's his first start, driven backwards in that challenge. 12 minutes into the contest, and both sides are yet to get themselves a point on the board. Trevor Nakanya, I should mention though, South Africa, they have had one opportunity to be able to do so. No use to see the boxer playing high school rugby, says Herky. Now nice run from Damien Valimza. Moves up once again inside of the 22. Reinach off to the right. Jasper Visa taken down low by, I believe it was Santiago Grondona. Space opening up, the kicker behind. Goes straight into touch from Andre Estes and off the bounce. And now Argentina again will have themselves their line out. Can't get to the pub, no taxis or Uber, says Keith there. It's a bit rough, isn't it? I know that where we are, we don't actually have Uber or taxi. But something I love about going to like a bigger town or city is the fact that they have Uber Eats. And you just put something in the phone and then it arrives at the house. It's absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, sadly, we don't have that here. We haven't got enough people. We got one guy with taxi written on the side of his car, but I think that he sells drugs. And now it's going to be Gonzalo Bertrano. The ball at the back, 10 metres out. Back into the pocket to Santiago Carreras. Now, that one staying in the field of play again. Both sides not really having too many stoppages throughout this game. Early on, great run from Damien Valimza. Breaking through 2 tackles, but taken down by Cordero, who was able to eventually shut down the South African attack. Thomas Gallo goes low around the ankles. Jasper Visa up to 22 metres again now for South Africa, having a lot more of the territory early on. Lucanio arm bumps off Carreras. I have to say Argentina not quite making enough tackles at this stage, I would say, compared to what we saw in the early stages of the last game. That will be a knock-on advantage in favour of South Africa. Lucanio with the offload, something that he has got up his sleeve when needed. Andre Estes and Dion Ferry, quick hands to Cannon Moody. Tried to reach out, but he's put into touch, and they'll go back for the initial penalty. Getting closer and closer to scoring, says Cited. And also, did I hear that correctly? Your taxi guy says, Nella, yeah, you did. But other than that, I don't think you can get a taxi around here. And I don't even think he runs a taxi service. He's just got it on the side of the vehicle. Right. Now South Africa have a decision to make. Do they take on the 3? Okay, Bongi Omanambi asking for a different penalty. The benefit that he has got in this game is due to him being captain, he is allowed to talk to the referee just a little bit more than he normally would. South Africa are absolutely not winning the World Cup, says Yeda. And Classic says Nella and your taxi guy have the hookup, says Keith. And really not looking forward to seeing the Box play this World Cup, says Sifui. And although the thing is, these warm-up games for the Rugby World Cup, it's all about finding what works. Currently, I mean, we're finding some combinations that are working well for the Springboks. We're seeing others that aren't quite up to par, but that is the beauty of the Springboks side. Is a lot of people, after they lost to the All Blacks in the last World Cup, they were like, nah, Springboks ain't winning it. And then they went on and they became the first team to have lost a game in a World Cup and still gone on to win the title. So, you know, it's not all gone for the Boks as of yet. They announced their side on Tuesday. That kick is successful from Mani Lebok, so that will now make the score 3-0 for South Africa after the 16 minutes. I drive that taxi, says David. And there, we have got there, if you are that thirsty, why not walk? Says Stan. If I am that thirsty, why not walk? So I've got a bottle right here. I have to walk nowhere. That's why I got 1.5 litres though. 600 mils was gone in a second. Don't know if anyone caught that, but I almost missed my mouth. Almost took water right down my front, which wouldn't have been a lot of fun. South Africa will peak in the World Cup, says Tangata. Now they have once again got the possession 30 metres out from their own line. Kick tie. Now Makazole Mapimpi. Nicely taken. So your drug dealer may be bad at spelling hence taxi. I should mention he's not my drug dealer, he's just the local one. That's a nice cross kick. Cannon Moody chips it in behind. Argentina back to cover with Gonzalo Bertrano, but the Springboks putting on all sorts of pressure. Although now it is going to be the offside against South Africa. I was talking about the taxi incident. Let him walk, says Stan. And I'll have to pull up Google Lens to join in. So here's Mr. Fantastic in there as well. Big shot coming in the air from Carreras and Makazole Mapimpi. Well contested. And saying who will win the World Cup now. So premature, no one is guaranteed to win, no one. Exactly right, like no team has announced their World Cup squad yet either. For all we know, there is a chance that we see, I know that this is a stretch, but we could see maybe 5 big Springbok players missing out in that selection that some people may have thought were going to be doing well in the competition. It's very tricky to tell. And on Tuesday, we will have the answers. We will be doing a video and also a stream alongside it. And drinking too much water can damage your kidneys, just moderate, says Albert. But yeah, that's pretty much, like that wouldn't quite be classed as too much water, I wouldn't think. Where can we watch this? DSTV in South Africa is your best bet. I think it's on Flow Rugby, if I'm not wrong. But now Julio Montoya with the line out throw, 10 metres out from the line now for Argentina. Nicely taken by Juan Martin Gonzalez, but I believe South Africa, they've got themselves the free kick because Argentina closed the gap early at line out time. Bad decision going for the Poles early in the game. Should have gone for the try, says Lune, and they have had a lot of pressure on early on in this match already, South Africa, but I guess they just wanted to get that bit of confidence, have some points on the board heading towards the first quarter being up in this game. It could be a very interesting, or this could be a very interesting World Cup. Lots of secondary teams are playing well. Exactly right, and I feel like this World Cup, for me, is the most unpredictable of all of them that we have seen, mainly because there's about 6 or 7 sides that I think have a really good chance of getting themselves a victory. And I'm loving the mix-up this past week brought to the Rugby World Cup standings. It's anyone's game for the World Cup, says Stam. And now line-out throw. Julio Montoya, that throw wasn't completely straight, but Grondona is able to claim it. Now going back across. Short ball from Matthias Maroni. Big shot coming on him by Andre Esterhuizen, who's just a ball of muscle who likes to use it. Pass out wide to Emiliano Boffelli. Now it's going to be an advantage in favour of Argentina. But Kanamudi is back to cover that kick. Pulling the player's jersey without the ball. Number 11, Makazole Mapimpi, has been penalised there. I actually thought that Mapimpi had his jersey grabbed. But maybe they were just having a little bit of argy-bargy between them. And hello, Yalika Ding, says Kayleen. Welcome in. If you are doing well, I still know what that means. My brain has remembered, although I've forgotten how to pronounce the long barbecued sausage. Or the bride sausage from South Africa. I say borrowers, and everyone's like, what are you saying? That's not correct. Sadly, I don't know how to say it now. I'm questioning everything. I think the problem with this upcoming World Cup is the draw. But after the squad announcements, we will have a better idea, yep. So once we start to know squads, once we know starting lineups or lineup predictions and everything along those lines, that's when we'll start to see it make a little bit more sense. Nicely taken by Argentina there from Pablo Matera. Now the rolling ball starts and the advantage is in favour of Los Pumas. It's available at the back for Julio Montoya. Short side for Emiliano Boffelli. Taken down by Bongio Manambi 5 metres out from the line. But the Pumas, this is their first real attacking chance of the game, and they will certainly want to make the most of it. Julian Montoya around the side of the breakdown again. Now Burfrano, short ball. That's knocked on by, I believe it was in the end, Thomas Lavanini. It's Wars, says Kayleen there. And hi, says Dylan. And hi from South Africa, says Keenan. Welcome in, everyone. Anyone who is new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back next week with some more action in the rugby world. Wales versus England going to be taking place, as well as Italy. Or sorry, not Italy, Scotland. They will be taking on the French. And then the week after that, we get to see South Africa taking on Wales. Now 5 metres out from the line. Juan Martin Gonzalez inside ball to Pablo Matera. Tried to use that physicality to go over the ball. I see at this stage, Kobus Reinach trying to get his hands on the ball to slow it down. Argentina, though, right where they need to be. Another advantage against South Africa. Discipline at the moment seems like it is starting to become a little bit of a problem. They've gone for the counter ruck. Julian Montoya's done brilliantly. A new advantage against South Africa. This time for offside. Quick tap taken. He's over the try line. And Argentina with Gonzalo Burfrano gets him for the first try of the match. Saw the opportunity to take it quickly. Does just that. And they have now got themselves the first try. And how did we get here? Listening to a Kiwi on stream. When we used to have Supersport, says David Lee. I mean, you can still get Supersport, David. You don't have to listen to me. That's the thing. There's other options around. And also come on, Argies, says Tony. This is the first try of the game. Gonzalo Bertrano taking the quick dab. Dion Fori tried to stop him, but a great step to the right. And the try stanza called it, says Yetta. And Aussie commentary has been improving since he started out in 2020. Impressive, says Exan. I went back and watched an old live stream a little while ago, and like the commentary, even now I'm like, it still needs to improve a little bit, but back then it was just rough. And David Rudin, correct, says crime and mystery. Well, that's the thing. I agree in some regards to David's statement. Not so much calling me names, but the part about it should be more available to watch rugby around the world. I've been an advocate for this for a very long time, because the Pacific Nations Cup, like, we ended up in that scenario of like 90% of the countries around the world couldn't actually watch that, which is a big shame. That kick is successful, which will not be a shame for Argentina as they now take a 7-3 lead. We have got there in the chat as well. One moment, there are plenty going forward. Amish pronounces his Afrikaans words excellent, although there are still a few that I have got to work on a little bit. We have got there, she has said you are good looking, says Polly. Who's she? I assume it's not David. But we love you, that's why we listen to you. Supersport is on silent in the background. And the interesting thing with this game is the commentary isn't actually working here in New Zealand for the match. So because of that, I guess some of you guys, this may be the only commentary for it. And sadly, Supersport don't want to open up the rights, says Steve, which is a shame because definitely in a World Cup year, the defending champs should have free-to-air games of rugby heading into their Rugby World Cup. I feel like that is the best case scenario for them. Now, Trevor Nakanye moving up to 45 metres out from the line. Over the ball, Pablo Matera almost able to get the turnover. Mani Lebok passes across to Bongi Umbanambi. Now there's a knock-on the ground from Umbanambi there. And Argentina will have themselves a scrum feed. You know what? Be kind if you are here. It is on your own accord, says Ockett. And no commentary in the UK either. And also we have got there... this is my favourite stream, to be honest, says Mark. Thank you very much, mate. Hugely appreciated you being there for this one. Like I mentioned, anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We do cover all of the Springboks fixtures throughout the year, including all of their games of the Rugby World Cup. What's the score? Thanks, says Neil. It is currently 7-3, but the scoreboard, for some reason, doesn't want to give Argentina the try. It is an automatic scoreboard online. But yeah, currently 7-3 in favour of Argentina. Are you going to wear your suit and tie during the World Cup? We will have it on a little bit, I would say, throughout the World Cup. Maybe not for every game, but for a few of them, we will end up having it. And 800 plus viewers, says Bully. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible the amount of support that we receive on these live streams. Big run from Santiago Carreras. Moves up to the halfway line. And it's a penalty to South Africa. It was Dion Fori. He does it throughout the URC, and he's done it here once again. And manages to get the turnover for South Africa. Christo said, stop talking about rubbish. Talk about our game and players that should go to the World Cup, says Christo. Well, fun fact, a lot of them have stayed in South Africa, but we will be doing the live stream just before the squad is announced in terms of picking who we think will be going through. But a few of these players, they have to certainly step up to have a chance of making it into that World Cup squad. A few players going to be missing out, sadly. Hamish looks like a movie star, says Roof, with that lovely mustache. Oosh. Maybe an 80s porn star. I've had that quite a bit, unfortunately, as the comparison. Although that's normally when I've shaved the beard. 5 metres out from the line now. Bongi Umbanambi. Only one line-out throw for the South Africans so far. And now this will be the second. One straight, now two. Now it's going to be the rolling ball. I thought the score was Pumas had scored a try. They have now. It just took a little while for it to load on the scoreboard, although South Africa now looking to score their first try of this contest as well. Now trying to march that a little bit further for Bongi Umbanambi around the side of the breakdown. Julian Montoya thought about taking the ball from the back. That's close. That's going to be held up though for Jean Klein. And it will now be a Argentine goal line dropout. And it just update the score, says Dylan in there. And thought the Pumas had scored a try, says Neil. They certainly have. And it was a scored try by, I believe it was actually Gonzalo Burrano off that quick tap. Brilliant work from him. They've been close to scoring a couple times here, the Springboks, but currently with the way it sits, Argentina still have got themselves that little bit of a lead. Over there, we watching rugby. What you watching here? Oh, I'm watching rugby as well. At least I think so. I think the oval ball, 15 players on each side, and the goalpost give it away. Now it's going to be Santiago Carreras for the goal line dropout. Goes long. Nicely taken by Mani Libok, 40 metres out for the line. Andre stays and crashes at Santiago Rondona. Now Marvin Ori, tackle by Julian Montoya. Reinach gets it across to Libok, going to the left here. Jasper Visa, 22 metres out now. Gets back up to his feet, is able to go again. This time wrestled down by Pablo Matera. Advantage there for, I believe it would have been a number 3 for Argentina, not being able to roll away in time. Big shot coming in from Matthias Maroni. Awkward bend of the knee of Lucanuan. Hopefully it's not going to be any sort of injury. They're playing advantage already, says the ref, so they do have to keep on going. Down the short side, foot was in touch from Valimza, so they will go back for, yet again, another penalty. This is actually a really good stream. I like the banter, says David Lee. Thank you very much, mate. Thanks for making the commentary. I hope that you'll do the World Cup as well, says Steed. We are doing every single game of the Rugby World Cup, whether that is going to be Chile taking on Argentina, whether that's going to be South Africa taking on Romania. We will be here on the channel covering every minute of the action. Lucanuam, he has actually stayed down. He awkwardly bent with his knee underneath the player. I think they're just going to make sure that it's going to be all right. He's got a lot of strapping already on that knee. Can't afford an injury just before the World Cup. And Hamish, every time I watch a South Africa game, I get you as my commentator, since SA1s are bad, says CMC, so it is hugely appreciated you being here for these games. And yeah, it's awesome the amount of support that we've been able to build up for South African audience, mainly because at the end of the day, some of my pronunciations at times can be a little bit rough, of course, but the reason that they are getting better and the reason they have got better is because of you guys watching. You always correct me when I get it wrong, which helps big time. And the only bloke or the only Bok player to go to the World Cup is Percy Montgomery or Butch James, says Ruth there. It looks like South Africa are going to take on the 3 points here once again. 29 minutes into the half. Currently sitting 50% for his kicking, Mani Libok, about 32 metres out on the angle. And keep up the good work, much appreciated, says Steed. And there as well. I'm watching on Sky Sports Action, says Darren. Although I believe a lot of places don't actually have the live commentary for this game due to technical difficulties. Now Mani Libok line up this kick. 30 minutes gone. Why don't you become that guy at the rugby that's talk like now, says Dylan. Mainly, I think the big thing is I'm not an ex-rugby player, and they do normally look at bringing in the ex-rugby players for the actual commentary, but I much prefer this format, mainly because I get to talk to you guys throughout the game as well, and it's just, we build up an awesome community on this channel of rugby lovers from all around the world. That kick is missed from Mani Libok, where South Africa had a safe kicker, says Hanger Rat. I wish you to try brandy, coke and ice during the commentary, says Polly Bear. I mean, water is strong enough for myself, to be honest. I feel like any other liquids and I would be absolutely buzzing off the walls. When is Pollard available? I believe early Rugby World Cup he is available for this one. Commentary is great. You guys want to chat about Roa? She is busy commentating about the game, says Christo. And now, it's going to be Kobus Reinach passes across to Jean Klein. A lot of yelling from the breakdown at the moment for these two sides. But I guess you don't normally hear that due to the commentary. Wait a minute, do we hear? Was that someone's commentary? I think they had half a second of commentary there and now it's disappeared again. Currently 50 metres out from the line. Kobus Reinach going across the box have made pretty decent metres when it comes to their running game. I mentioned in the Rugby Championship from their 3 games, making 1,400 metres. Great chip in behind, taken by Argentina's number 15. Bogado running onto that one and cutting it down. Now back into the pocket, looking for the touchline. Looks like a couple players may have stayed down a little bit longer, maybe due to injury, but also because they had, I guess, a little bit of a stack going on. They're all piled up. No, there is an Argentine player down here, so they might end up with a stoppage. Kick downfield from Damien Willems, a relatively successful one from inside of his 22. Now we will have that stoppage due to the injury. It's only my second game, but I quite like a bit of banter and variety. More of a sitting at the bar kind of vibe, says Steve. And yeah, to be honest, that is kind of along the lines of what our goal is. It's always going to be to try and provide, of course, a bit of play-by-play, but in between when we've got the injuries, when we've got stoppages and everything like along those lines, I always call it as just a group of people, as if you're just watching on a couch, watching a game of rugby and being able to chat about it. And I feel like it's an awesome way of being able to do it, mainly because I don't know everyone's situations from around the world, but, you know, some people, maybe they don't have the opportunity to go to a pub or go out somewhere and watch a game of rugby with others. Maybe they only watch the rugby alone. So I feel like this is an awesome way of them being able to interact with people as well and just all talking about the rugby that we love watching. We need to buy Hamish some beers, says Mr. Fantastic AJ. And also Argentina, yeah, says Otaro. Yeah, at the moment, after 32 minutes, Argentina leading this game 7 points to 3. I haven't actually worked out which player it is who is injured. My guess is Bogado, but I cannot confirm as of yet because they are showing zoomed in pictures of Thomas Lavanini's back. And for sure, says Steve, and Kiwi Lad show some pictures, says James, that is one thing sadly we're not allowed to do. YouTube would take us straight down, ban us from doing streams for 3 months, and it would mean we miss the entire Rugby World Cup, which would not be ideal at this stage. We haven't got a second fly half for the World Cup, I'm worried, says Christo. And our load shedding is preventing us from watching it live now. Paul from South Africa. And yeah, load shedding always seems to overlap with Springbok games, which is a big shame. But that is actually how a lot of people have found our channel, through the load shedding side of things. And the box is in a trend, or is in the trend every team. I'm the world. Got their game plan. They should have worked on a new game plan, says Herky. And you're the best damage, says Rashad. Thank you very much, mate. That one's not going to be straight from... No, in fact, it was straight, but South Africa this time closing the gap. Interesting. So it's actually been both sides have been penalised for closing the gap at line-out time. You guys remember G-Man? I used to get plastered during his commentary. RIP, says Polybear. Certainly do. Great Gareth Mason sadly passed away. I believe it was last year early, wasn't it? But yeah, sadly never got to work with G-Man on a video, but we were almost in the process of getting something going a couple months before his passing. I'm working, but luckily you're here for us. Thanks, bro, says Pete. And also we have got there, you're doing a magnificent job. Thank you, Paul, says Exclueless. It's going to be kicked high. Nicely taken by Argentina. I believe there was a foot in touch there for Emiliano Boffelli. And it is the penalty to South Africa, though, for 3 players being over the breakdown, ready to get the turnover. Reinach starting to fire up Emiliano Boffelli, and that has annoyed him big time. And now it's all kicking off on the sidelines between these two sides. And the ref is consistent with this game, says Herky. Yeah, I've heard a lot of praise for the Georgian referee. Overall, I feel like every referee, of course, has their moments where people do criticise them, but overall, he's a pretty solid one. We have got there, why did they switch the teams? For South Africa, the reason behind it was that they are, theoretically in this case, they wanted to give a few more players a chance to see if they were going to be in that World Cup squad. They needed to see some more game time from some. They felt like the guys that they've left in South Africa have already done their job for being able to get in. You should consider a small field graphic, show where the players, says Byron. We've looked into it in the past. The only slight downside of it is the fact that because I watch on Sky Sport now in New Zealand, there's about maybe around a 45 to minute delay compared to live. So normally what would happen is the graphic would show that there's a try being scored about 30 or 40 seconds before I actually commentate on it. Because I believe we tried it for one game and people got annoyed because of how quickly it was updating, and they were like, it's just telling us exactly what's going to happen before you get the chance. So if we could find a graphic that worked alongside our streaming, could be a good option. How is Andre doing at centre? He's had a couple big runs so far, but nothing too hugely beneficial for South Africa throughout this game. I'll be honest, he's been a little bit more quiet than we saw him in that first game up against Australia. of the Rugby Championship. They are just showing there Dion Forey grabbing Emiliano Boffelli's face, or in fact it was Cobus Reinach, and that is why Emiliano Boffelli retaliated out of frustration. Yeah, Cobus Reinach, he may have slightly started that one, trying to fire him up. And 34 minutes in and South Africa doesn't have a try. South Africa has missed 2 kicks and couldn't finish 3 attempts, says Hanger Rat. Right, the water has been taken off the field. As we did just have the water break. Andre is a bit cold in this game, says Herky. Yeah, we haven't seen a huge amount of him. Does this game end tonight at 12, says Dylan? I don't believe so. I believe it started at 9:10 p.m. 9:10 p.m. South African time. So now the game will finish at around that 11 p.m. South African time. This is a very good ref, says Albert, and the penalty has actually been reversed in this case for Argentina due to Cobus Reinach grabbing Emiliano Boffelli and trying to rip him out of that breakdown. Hi again, South Africa, watching from Wales. And so I appreciate and enjoy your commentating, says Beth there. And I'm sure you would have been loving that game earlier on between Wales and England. A close fixture between the teams. The Welsh, they were victorious. Now I almost said Julian Monchon again, but Julian Montoya, the line out throw here, only 15 metres out from the Springboks line. 6 minutes remaining in the half. If they can score themselves a try now, that'll be the penalty to South Africa, though. Little bit of obstruction. The wrong player ending up in front. Don't know what the South Africa squad looks like. Is Epsabeth playing, says Steed? He is not. I will actually show you the starting lineup for the South Africans. There we go. So Trevor Nakanye, Bongio Manambi, and Thomas Tatoy as the front row. You will notice quite a few changes have been made in this game compared to that last one. Jean Klein and Marvin Ori and the locking duo. Dion Forey, Franco Mostert, and Jesper Visa as the forwards. Cobus Reinach, Mani Lebok, Andre Estaes, and Lucanio Am. Makazole Mapimpi, Canon Moody, and Damien Willemse, the last man in the starting lineup. So that is roughly what the South Africans have got out there on the field at the moment. I don't believe we've seen any injuries. That one has gone into touch off the Springboks. So now another chance for Argentina with the line out. It looks like Bongio Manambi is pleading with the touch judge to give them some sort of penalty, and actually getting pulled back by one of his teammates there by the looks of it for Mbanambi. And Boks are annoyed. The game not going the Boks way, says Herky. Yeah, you can see the frustration on the faces, which you can understand, because going into this game, it looked like, oh, that's a tackle without the ball. And that's a massive shot in the ribcage of Santiago Carreras as well. That was like a hit in hockey. Number 7, he's going to be going off the field for 10 minutes here, Franco Mostert, due to the cheap shot that he had. It was quite late, Brian, as the comment there from the referee. He's going to be going up to the TMO just to check how late this shot was. It could have been a probably penalty against Dion Forey for the tackle without the ball. But this one for Mostert, he may end up going to the bin for 10 minutes with the lateness of that shot on Carreras. So he passed the ball, he got rid of it. Yeah, that's just silly from Franco Mostert. A player of his experience shouldn't be doing a cheap shot late and ending up giving away a penalty and probably a yellow card for it as well. Dion Forey, pinpoint like always, says Herky. It's 2 tackles off the ball. Franco Mostert, he was a lot earlier, so he is going to be going off the field for 10 minutes now. Bongio Mbanambi not happy about it, but I think the fact that there were 2 late tackles in a row may have helped decide on that decision for the yellow card. Bro, they do shepherding. Then we get penalised, shake my head, says LB, although that Franco Mostert one was after Carreras had passed the ball and then got smacked in the side. Now Emiliano Boffelli to line up the kick here for Argentina to give them a 7-point lead if this kick is successful. Boks were lucky last time, they won't get away this time, says Max Power. And Argentina solid, says Yera. And also South Africa have to show composure when it's not going their way, says Byron. And they just have to almost roll with the punches, I guess you'd say. Not literally, don't punch anyone. That's a good bit of advice for a rugby game, but just make sure that even if you're not able to get those points on the board, you're still wearing down the Argentines, putting pressure on them, playing the territory game, getting them deep inside of their own half, so that when Argentina make the mistake and you find a little bit of form, that's when you're able to capitalise. Emiliano Boffelli from 40 metres out, looking pretty good from this angle. The kick is successful, and now the points sitting 10 points to 3 in favour of Los Pumas. Still 3 minutes remaining in this first half and 9 minutes remaining of the Franco Mostert yellow card. Box will need to calm down, do the basics well, and it will be a much better day. Elroan Pinar said he will help out, says Albert. Now South Africa, 3 minutes remaining in this first half. They are down by the 7. Should not be tackling off the ball. Can't play the game with a fired up Argentina team, says Hurricane. And who won in Wales versus England? In the end, we did see Wales get themselves that victory. So a lot of home, in fact, the only home team who haven't won a game so far throughout this weekend that I know of, in terms of those big matches, is actually Japan, who were beaten by the Fijians. And also Wales won 20 points to 9. Says Timothy. Ball available now for Argentina. Just off the back. Cobus Reinach trying to rip it away, but Gonzalo Burrano just manages to retain the ball for the Pumas here. They are getting put under a lot of pressure by the Springboks. Big run forward though from Juan Martin Gonzalez. Taken down by Trevor Nakanye, now going off to the right-hand side. In fact, they will instead go for the kick. Now, it's going to be knocked backwards by the Pumas. Maybe a potential knock-on from the Springboks. Julian Montoya gives it to Santiago Carreras, who's looking for the 50-22. The bounce of the ball is favourable for South Africa. It sits up for Lebok, and Valimza clears his lines and gets that one into touch. They thought about the quick throw, but they decide against it. Brilliant kick, though, from Damian Valimza, getting Argentina to only 40 metres out from their own line, thanks to Mathias Steed. And also we have got there, who do you see in the World Cup finals? It's a little bit of a tricky one, to be honest, because I do believe that the winner of the World Cup will be one of the 4 sides on the side of the draw with New Zealand, South Africa, France, and Ireland. But the way that the finals, I'd like to think South Africa or New Zealand will be in there. Maybe even both have got that potential. Going to be knocked backwards. Julian Montoya tries to juggle it. It becomes a penalty for Argentina now for taking the player out in the air at line-out time. 50 seconds remaining now in this first half. Argentina, they are certainly building their momentum near the end of it. Who plays in the Bunnings NBC today? I believe that there are Northland, I don't think are playing. I think they played yesterday, if I'm not wrong. There's still... I like how my brain's gone blank thinking about the Bunnings NBC. Manawatu have already played. Maybe North Harbour. I think they might have a game today. Now the line out. So far we've seen 9 from 9-1 by the Argentines. What's the score? It's actually 10 points to 3. They seem to be very slow updating Argentina's score, but not South Africa's for some reason. And this one by Gonzalo Burrano. Now back across. Looks like they're going for the kick in behind. I don't know whether or not that was the best choice for Argentina. Maybe should have looked at one last attack before the end of the half. Now South Africa, they hear the siren inside of their 22. And Makazole Mapimpi drives forward. Reinach looks to put this ball towards Damian Valimza, who kicks it into touch. And halftime in this contest is here. 10 points to 3 in favour of Argentina. We have got there, was your commentary a sharp 5 to 10 years ago as well? Or is it a momentary lapse of reason? Says Stan. It doesn't matter how bad they play. Their sweet asses look good in those tight shorts. Oosh. Says Roof. I will mention that is from Roof, not myself. North Harbour do have a game today. Says Herky. And also my team played Canterbury last night. Canterbury winning 43 points to 11. But halftime in this game, 10 points to 3. Argentina having the much better performance throughout that first 40 minutes. Although the Springboks, they actually started this match better. Unfortunately for them, though, after that 10 to 15 minutes at the start of the game, they just slowly seemed to go that little bit downhill. But anyone who is new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It is hugely appreciated. You'll all be in here for these live streams. Next week, we've got plenty more rugby action. How long is halftime? Roughly around that normally 10 to 15 minute mark. So a little bit of time in between these halves, but the games next week, Tonga versus Canada, that will be taking place on Thursday here in New Zealand. Georgia versus Romania. Portugal versus the USA. England in their rematch against Wales. They'll be looking for redemption after their loss just a little bit ago. France versus Scotland. That is also redemption for the French. And then Chile taking on Namibia. That game to be determined in terms of the time that it will be starting. But this first half, I have to say, they didn't quite perform the way that we expected, the South Africans. But with so many changes, it's actually a very similar scenario to what we did see in the game between New Zealand and Australia. Because of making so many changes, it seems like maybe that is the factor that has influenced the amount of, I guess, miscommunication and the amount of errors that are coming from normally a clinical box side. And cheers, guy, enjoy the rest of the game. Says Steed, have load shedding at 10. So hopefully you do get to catch the highlights of the second half or the full match replay at some stage in the future, Steed. But it's been awesome having you in here. And 10 minutes, says Neil, and Finn Russell, arguably the best fly half in the world right now, says Mitch. And also they are playing against Italy right now, I believe, says Yetta. They certainly are for the Irish. Now, I am going to let you guys know the score in that game between Ireland and Italy. So if you do not want to know it, block your ears, because I'm going to say it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The moment halftime in that game, Ireland are leading 21 points to 3. So that's for anyone who muted. I'm back now. Interesting game for those two sides. Thanks, buddy, says Steed. And also we have got there Dylan, I think, move on from rugby, says Mitch. And box discipline is the problem in this game. We're ahead in everything but the scoreboard at the moment, says LB. And yeah, those penalty, unfortunately, just coming a little bit too often for the Springboks. Like you mentioned, I'm going to see whether or not I've got a penalty stat. I know that I can get tackling stats and everything along those lines, but have we got the penalty count for this match? Because I know that Argentina, they gave away their fair share of the penalties throughout the half as well, but not quite as many as the South Africans. So we're seeing 59% possession for South Africa in this match. Anyone wondering why I've got a random mark there? That is because the sun is coming out here in New Zealand. We have reached morning. I'll see whether or not I can fix it a little bit. That made it a lot worse. There we go. I pretty much got the green screen leaning on the back of my head. And I did not expect anything better than last week, says Kayling. And yeah, certainly at this stage, we haven't really seen the best of this box outfit, but maybe in the second half, there is more potential just around the corner. 58% territory also in favour of the Springboks for this game. 1 try from the Argentines, no tries from the Springboks. Clean breaks, we've seen 3 for the Springboks, 1 from Argentina. 15 defenders beaten for South Africa, 6 defenders beaten for Argentina, and then 292 metres gained by the South Africans compared to the 58 metres by Argentina. But when we look at the scoreboard, it tells a whole different story compared to what those statistics do. Argentina making 94 tackles and South Africa making the 43. Whereas New Zealand says common sense, it is down in the bottom corner of the world. So pretty much if you know your compass, you would look at southeast of the world. Although it depends on what map you look at, doesn't it? The maps I've seen, New Zealand's down that corner, but we're kind of down south. It's normally pretty cold down here. It's 1 degree Celsius at the moment, even though it's 8 a.m. What a lovely day. And for a country who has great quality players, South Africa really is an average team, says Mitch. Although with so many changes, of course, it was always going to be a little bit harder for them to find their momentum early on this contest. I think we're going to see the same thing as we saw with the All Blacks game, how they do come out in the second half and start to find that little bit more chemistry, start to work better as a side, and then maybe can manage to get themselves the upset win. The thing is, they're down by a lot less points than some of the upsets we have seen throughout this round of rugby. And also we have got there, Australia can come out of nowhere and beat big teams. Argentina can come out of nowhere and beat big teams on their day. And also we have got there all the Cape Crusaders think New Zealand is in Europe, says Timothy. Well, to be fair, I am very bad with my South African, or even my geography. I know where South Africa is in Africa, but other than that, I could probably name 50 African countries. Is there even 50 African countries? There's close to there, but I probably couldn't tell you whereabouts they are. And as I said, I don't mind this team losing to the RGs, no shame in it. They are a great team, says Sir MC. And the good news for this game is the players who play well here, when the Springboks do have their backs up against the wall, I believe they'll be the players who are selected for that Rugby World Cup squad, because they need players who look like in the tricky games they are able to make the most of the opportunities. I'm trying to get rid of that. That is not going to go away though. That reflection and go the Pumas woohoo. Make the Bok run, says Roof. So in this game so far, I think Moody has been successful out on that wing when he's had the opportunities. Alongside him, I mean, Dion Fori, he's been relatively solid. Are they at the bottom tip of the African continent? They are indeed. So I know where South Africa is, but if someone was like, hey, tell me where Zimbabwe is, I'd say, hey, no. Because no idea. Somewhere in Africa, in that region. Hello again. Says Jose Maria, welcome back. Oamaru, land of, well, it's a place. Says Sir MC, and go the Bok. Says Petrun. And as at half-time now, says Dylan, it still is, yes, but the second half only a little bit away from starting up. But anyone who is new to the channel, like I mentioned, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It is hugely appreciated, everyone being here throughout these late night live streams. Or actually, yeah, late night for you guys in South Africa, early morning for us here in New Zealand. Directions to New Zealand, point southeast and keep going until you hit Middle Earth, says Lune. And South Africa are at the bottom tip of the Africa continent. They certainly are. And Moody is honestly impressive. All the coaches say he's the most talented young player ever produced in South Africa. The last person they said that about was Frans Steyn. That's high praise, says LB. So yeah, I think that him in this game, he has definitely had a good one. Marvin Ori, I think, has actually played pretty decently, to be honest, in the lock-in duo. And then other than that, maybe Damien Valimza, you'd say, to a certain stretch in terms of some of the stuff he's been able to create. But you know, there's not a huge amount of players who have completely stepped up in this one. It's 10:06 p.m. in South Africa now, says Dylan. And on the plus side, it's good practice for the World Cup games. There will be situations like this where they have to be brave and come back in the second half, says Cited. Yeah, it's going to be good. And it's going to be the tester. We saw some of the All Blacks players in that second half. They were able to step up when the back was against the wall. I mentioned about it earlier on in this live stream. You know, it's only when a side has their back up against that wall, when they're trying to climb a hill, but they've got no tyres left on the bike and they're just trying to get that little bit further towards the victory. Sometimes, like, those are the players that become great, and those are the players who get selected. South Africa are an average team. Any team could beat them on their off days, which seem to be consistent. Says Mitch Mapimpi is having a good game so far for Ariel, says LB. Yeah, that is true. Makasole Mapimpi hasn't been too bad. And to be honest, he kind of had to have a big game here because with Moody out on the other side and also Kurtley Arinso at fullback, they needed the big performance from him in this one, middle of the afternoon. And the US, 4 p.m. in Philadelphia, says Gus. And of course, the USA actually playing earlier on today up against Romania, which was a fantastic fixture to be able to see. What are you going to do when load shedding hits you, man, says Dylan. Is that for myself or for the other fella who mentioned about in Wales has put in a final nail to the English coffin, says James, although I think next week's the big determining factor for them a little bit more. You know, we've got home game for England next week. That will be, I think that's a late night game for me if I'm not wrong, or early morning, depending on how you look at it. It is going to be at 4:30 a.m. New Zealand time, so 6:30 p.m. South African time for the kickoff of that game. France versus Scotland actually starting 5 minutes earlier than South Africa versus Argentina did. So anyone who is keen on watching that, we will be live on the channel covering that game. And who knows, maybe if one of those other games doesn't overlap and it is being shown here in New Zealand, we could also look at that as an opportunity. We have got there, how are you doing, AB squad announcement? Says Blues Nate from Brandon. I am. So that is the plan anyway. We are going to be doing the All Blacks announcement maybe about an hour beforehand. And then, yeah, we will end up with that video coming out straight afterward. Load shedding in South Africa wonder why they didn't get the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Or sorry, get the 2027 World Cup, says Mitch. And RGA playing Chile too at some point, says Thomas. That is true. They will be kicking off in 2 hours, 50 minutes. And Uruguay play Namibia in 50 minutes time. Sadly, we won't be covering those two on the channel. We've just decided to climb a hill, it would seem. Which is actually true. One of my mates, one of the other Kiwi lads, George, you guys, some of you may know him. He's coming around after I finish this live stream, or actually after I finish a podcast after this live stream, he's coming round. There's a steep hill that way, and for some reason, our Sunday is going to involve trying to get up it. Seems like a good idea. My favourite rugby highlights video is the one with Danny Gerber. And I don't think that the Springboks will get back up again, or will they? I think they've got a good chance. To be honest, like, second half, if anything has been proven throughout this round of international fixtures, it's that the second half is the most important half. We saw Scotland come back from looking like they were going to be defeated. We saw New Zealand come back from looking like they were going to be defeated. Wales, I believe, were actually down at half-time, came back in the second half, got themselves that victory. Fiji versus Japan, different story. That one doesn't count because, yeah, it didn't quite work out that way. We have got South Africa didn't get the 2023 World Cup because France bribed their way into hosting. This is a fact. Says LB, I'm terrified about the second part. South Africa is pressing very well during the Pumas attack. Also, Argentina isn't using their back, says Jose Maria. And that is a good point. We haven't really seen too much of the Argentine back line. It's mainly been Gonzalo Belgrano and Santiago Carreras, who are having the main amount of the ball. UPS for the win. Not today. Eskim, not today. Says cited. And Justin, are you stupid or what? Think your brain is fried? Wait, where's Justin? I don't know if I saw Justin's comment. What did Justin say? Okay, I don't know what that is. So I guess that's probably a good thing, maybe. The Bunnings NBC, they are just showing that later on today, there is going to be a couple games taking place in New Zealand. Now, second half just about to get underway. The two sides making their way out of the tunnel. Do let me know, ladies and gentlemen, first try of the second half. Who do we think is going to be able to score it? I think this is the first live stream we have done at this hour of the morning in quite some time because I haven't had to deal with that sun. Whoa, my arm's see-through. I'm like a ghost. But, wait, can I make a bunny? Yeah, it's a bunny. I'm way too tired. I apologise for that, but that did kind of look like a bunny, didn't it? Oh, bunny. He's got his teeth, wiggling the nose. Give Evan Ruiz a good 40 minutes. He really needs some game time to prove himself, says Hirki. Yeah, I think that South Africa may look to make a few changes relatively early on. The replacements in the forwards, we may actually see Vincent Koch make his way out onto the field as well as Gerhard Steenkamp a little bit sooner than they may have originally anticipated. We have RG loses. It will be an upset, says Albert there. And Jean Klein are putting his hand up in a big way, says Lune. Looks like Thomas Dutoy will be continuing this game for the second half. I would say they'll look at maybe making the change at around 50 minutes. If they aren't making it now, I don't think they will leave it too late though. Hey, you up there? What if load shedding hits you? Says Dylan. And also we've got the other Pumas moving on the rankings. If they win today, they certainly would. I believe they would get up one more ranking, if I'm correct. But if South Africa win, I think they've also got the chance of going up into third on the overall standings. And also Springboks will score the first try. 5 minutes in the second half, says Regan. Do you have a score or a try scorer that you think will be able to get it, Regan? Do let me know. They've had technical difficulties with the sound all throughout this game. Thing is, I mean, the highlights for these games on social media, I assume they aren't going to have commentary for them either. Maybe I need to say to them, hey, you should put my commentary over it so that you have a little bit of something on there. Big C Town says Blues, Nate. Springboks in the huddle on the halfway line. They know that the second 40 minutes is crucial for some of their players to be able to make it to that World Cup squad. Looks like some high quality H2O, says David Lee. It is. I've gone through, it started off full. Now it's down to the bottom, sadly, but we'll have to fill that back up after the stream. Damien Valimza says Regan is the first try scorer. The ref better brace himself if Argentina wins, says Keith. And Bok Tank is empty, says James. Don't know about that. I feel like they're just starting to get warmed up. The Springboks, they've been putting in some big hits near the end of that first half. They won't want to accept anything less than a win here. Why is it, or is it only half time? It is. So still 40 minutes remaining, which is just about to get back underway. I think my voice is going to disappear before the end of this one. We're good, hopefully. South Africa for the win, bomb squad solid, says I chewed. And also we have got there, you need a porta potty at this rate, says Tommy. To be fair, the amount of hours we sit on this chair, like today by itself, we've probably done about 12 hours of live streams, if not longer. We've been up for around 20 hours. Seemed like a good idea. Marnie Libok now going to be lining up this kick from halfway, the drop kick to get us underway for the second 40 minutes. Better bring bomb squad on early, says Ismay. Although the question is, with it being a 5-3 split, does that mean that it's still the bomb squad theoretically, or is it different? Is it just the normal bench? Do let me know. I am curious about that because I know that the bomb squad was normally associated with that 5-3. Or sorry, the 6-2. Now Carreras, oops, just whacked my keyboard. Puts the ball high. Going to go back onto the side of the box, and I do see that Jesse Creel has made his way onto the field. I believe that might be for Andre Esterhazen. No, in fact, that'll be for Lukanyawan, more than likely due to his injury. And also, are you wearing a stadium? It does seem that way. I'm slowly evaporating by the looks of it. Going to be the advantage in favour of South Africa now with the Argentines getting that breakdown slightly wrong. Jasper Visa, ball in mind to Damien Willemse. I thought about the short pass to Dion Fourie. Not able to get it. Now Jasper Visa to Mani Libok. Trevor Nakanye, big carry from a big man. Kobus Reinach goes to the left. Jesse Creel. Short pop pass to Damien Willemse. One more on the outside to Makazole Mapimpi. And within a minute, the Springboks fire back in the second half. Arasi playing mind games. Says Stan and Hamish, my first time here and I really enjoy things. I just happen to know the trolls. Cannot understand why politics has to be brought into sport. Says Kurt. A brilliant pass out wide to Makazole Mapimpi. Damien Willemse, he may not have scored it, but he got himself the try assist. It was a great break from Jesse Creel with that offload. I feel like he has been in some pretty good form throughout the Rugby Championship. Willemse is playing so well at 15, says LB. Yeah, it makes you question whether or not they will look at Willemse as that 15 for the future. I am actually starting to become invisible on that side of my head. I'll see if I can fix that. No, oh no, that made it worse. That's also not great. Go about there. That's the exact same. And now Mani Libok to line up this kick. Relatively wide out to the side for him here. And also that scoreboard changed quickly. Now South Africa scored, says Tommy. It's weird, isn't it? It takes like 5 minutes for Argentina's points to go on the board. But as soon as South Africa scores, it just straight away they click it over. And your scoreboard are great now. It update immediately, says Dylan. Nisbo's favourite player just scored, says Cited. Mani Libok taking the full amount of time available to take this kick. And that one has just snuck in the left hand upright, making the score 10-10 after 43 minutes. So, I guess the first half, it was great for the Pumas at times. Springboks come out in that second and just fire straight away. And it looks like Italy have done the same in their game up against the Irish by the looks of it. Maybe it is a day for the second half going a lot better than the first for sides. I'm first time watching and I'm a fan. Well done from Tanzania, says Greatness Citizens. Thank you very much for tuning in, mate. You have been enjoying all the coverage. We've got plenty more coming in the near future. We have got the Springbok squad announcement later on in the week on Tuesday. Monday, it is the All Black squad announcement. Wallabies are going to be announcing their side on Tuesday as well, I believe. And also, well, it should have been 16-10, but South Africa doesn't have a kicker, says Hanger Rap. And that square in the top corner wants some of the action, says Blues Nate. Another penalty goes the way of South Africa this time for the player not releasing. And what streaming platform are you dudes using? So I am using StreamYard for my live stream software, but watching it on Sky Sport. Not sure which one of those two was the question, so I answered with both, hoping that one of them is correct. And go the box, says Candice. Now they have to make a decision. Mani Libok, they are going to kick for the corner. From about 53 metres out, so it might have been just on the verge of Mani Libok's distance. And watching from Jimenez, go the box, says iTude. And thanks for being live watching from Greece as well, says Esme. So we've got people from all around Europe, all around the world as well for this game, which has been absolutely brilliant to have you all here. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers. We might be able to hit it around that same time as the World Cup. So yeah, if you do want to help us out, if you want to be notified when we upload videos, when we're talking about the lineups for these sides, when they are first announced, and then also alongside that, hey, we've got commentary. I just heard talking. Yeah, it sounds like they've actually fixed the commentary after 45 minutes in this game. Now Bongio Manumbi thrown into Jean Klein. Now looking to get this rolling maul, marching just that little bit further forward. Argentina, they have dragged that one down. Now Reinach goes across to Andre Estes and cross kick from Mani Libok. Goes out to Cannon Moody. Another one for the box. They are on fire in the second half. And Cannon Moody, if this game hasn't been one to go off in terms of if he does get selected for the Springboks World Cup squad, I don't know what more he could have done. He has been absolutely phenomenal in this contest. Krishnan watching from India, says Krishnan there, so welcome in as well. And OMG So Beautiful, Moody's on the wing is just something else, says LB. But great cross kick from Mani Libok, picks him out perfectly and scores the try. Cannon Moody, second try of the half for the Springboks. And just like that, the score goes to 15 points to 10. So completely different to what we saw in the first half of rugby action. A moment. There we go. We just heard on the commentary that Cannon Moody watched the 2019 World Cup with his friends in high school. And now he is playing for the Springboks and possibly getting that opportunity for himself come in a few days' time. We got the first Bok try. The first Bok try was scored by Makazole Mapimpi. Was the first try scorer. Would love to be able to see the action, says Mike. Yeah, sadly, due to licensing, if we show any match footage, YouTube take us straight down. The best I can offer you is a shadow of a bunny. I did a better one before. There we go. It's just chilling up in the top corner. But yeah, the game will have the highlights on YouTube straight after it is finished, which is going to be on the Rugby Championship YouTube channel. Mani Libok starts this one right. Doesn't come back round enough though. So that will now make the score 15 points to 10. How are you going to comment on so many games at the same time, says Doggo? Are we talking about the World Cup or just in general with the upcoming rugby games? Because World Cup wise, luckily none of the games overlap, which is great overall for us, seeing as we are going to be covering every single one. It's going to be kicked high now. Nicely taken by Jean Klein. Just inside of the 22. South Africa now. They've got more momentum here in the second half and they need to make sure that they keep that momentum flowing. Great cross kick from Mapimpi. For Mapimpi to score with ease, says Cited. They've retained that ball again after the little chip in behind. Reinach goes across to Klein. Currently 15 points to 10. Mostert, I should mention, is now back out on the field, making it 15 to 15. And that is in terms of the numbers on the field, I should say. Now, nice step from Thomas Gallo. Runs straight at Bongi Umbanambi. Now Burrano going to the short side. Here comes Pablo Matera holding the ball in one hand and well and truly throwing himself at the opposition defence. Another advantage, this time going against South Africa. They need to be careful with those clean-outs though for Argentina after the penalties awarded, or else they could end up with it being reversed. And 9 points left on the field for the Boks. Frustrating, says Hanger Rat. And also have the potential to make the semis, but will struggle against all top European teams, says Chris Brown. And go the Boks, says Bianca. This time I think it was Dion Fori who was penalised. Great run from Pablo Matera. Was halted in his momentum by Thomas du Toit. And then it was for Thomas Tatoy not rolling away in time. That is why the penalty came in. Who scored? The first try was scored by Makazole Mapimpi. Second try was scored by Cannon Moody. So both wingers in this one for South Africa have been able to get themselves the try. Now the rolling maul starting again here. Julian Montoya has it at the back. Currently only 5 points down Argentina. Oh, and Dion Foree had a bit of a poach of that one over the top, but doesn't quite get to it. Now big run from Lucio Cinti. They did have to make that early change in their midfield due to the injury that we did see, or in fact the knockout that we saw. Now Pablo Matera, tackled by Cannon Moody. Not on the ball, no hands, as the call from the referee. Moody Justa, is that like Moody well done, Kayleen? Hopefully Afrikaans has improved a little bit, even though that's probably not what it says. And in case anyone is confused, the running joke is according Nisbo, all bot players are called Mapimpi. Love it says cited. Now another step. It's on his YouTube video page, Dylan. Why do you keep asking dumb questions, says Mitch. Well, what's the score? Yeah, it is sitting 15 points to 10 at the moment for the Springboks in their favour. Right, another penalty against the Springboks. I believe they are in that scenario of any more inside of the 22. They might end up with another penalty. If you disappear, just keep talking. Says Stan, yeah, the sun is slowly trying to take over the green screen. It would seem, although this it's slowly coming back, maybe a little bit. Half my head's missing on that side. I can blame that for like the patch of hair that's missing from that part. And Moody and Mapimpi scored for South Africa, says Johan van der Merwe. They did indeed. Straight out in front of the post here for Emiliano Boffelli. And Argentina will look to take the 3 points, although it looks like they have also got an injury in back play. So hopefully nothing too serious. Mitch, that thing up there is not always right. It does not change when it is supposed to, says Dillama. The kick is successful, now making the score 15 points to 13 in favour of Argentina. Named 50 African countries, says Jan. It may take a little bit of time. I think a lot of people would get angry at me if I did start listing them on the channel, but the interesting thing is, maybe one day, not that anyone will probably end up tuning into it, maybe we'll do like a live stream where we do a whole heap of quizzes and whatnot based on countries, because I can actually name about 98% of the world's flags for countries. Fun fact. Tell me, how is Esterhuizen? He's been extremely quiet in this game. He hasn't really stepped up in the same way that he did for the first game up against Australia, which is a bit of a shame because I mentioned he needed a big game here for Joost, or Joosta, as the Afrikaans metaphor for your brilliant piece of steel, says Johan. Now inside of the 22, Pablo Matera again running it with one hand on the ball. It's risky because if he does end up dropping it, could end up with a counter-attack coming from South Africa. Kick downfield from Santiago Carreras, taken by Damian Valimza, now 40 metres out from his own line. Puts the bird up high towards the Argentine 22. Not taken cleanly by Lucio Cinti. And Valimza gets the ball back for the box now. Joseph Dweber, he has made his way on the field, but the penalty goes the way of Argentina in the breakdown. I do see that Vincent Koch also out there. So Gerhard Stindkamp, the only player who is not in the front. When do you start travelling? Says Jaco Vandenberg. In terms of like on a holiday, Jaco, or just in general? And how is our centres doing, says Christo. I think that Lukanyoami's got some sort of injury to that knee, which is a bit of a shame, but Jesse Creel, since he's come on the field, he actually helped get that first try. He was the assist of the assist. Got that ball away to Damian Valimza with an offload. Now Argentina sitting 13 points to 15. They have got themselves a line out here. Thrown into the front, nicely taken by Thomas Lavanini. Now Carrera, short, flat pass. That was the Argentine number 20. Change that they have made a bit earlier on. Big crash ball up. Argentina, they just don't seem to be able to find the gaps at the moment in this defensive line from the Springboks. And once again, it's that discipline of the box. Although this time, the penalty goes in their favour. We have got there, thanks for the good wishes. We will take it and make the best team win. May I support South Africa, says Ockert. And also we have got there travelling Kin, a fried out commie, says Etude. And also we have got there travel to South Africa, Europe, etc. Or even the World Cup, says Yako. I don't think the budget would allow for any travelling really at this point, but we are going to be covering all those games of international rugby that are taking place in the near future, which is exciting. Yeah, anyone who is new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Maybe one day we will get to go to a World Cup in our lifetime. Johan van der Merwe, please don't say the P word, says Kayleen. What is the P word? And Morena Hamish checking in from Istanbul. There's Image, welcome in. Looks like the Springboks will be taking on the 3 points here, sitting about 38 metres out from the line, from the post for Damien. In fact, it's Mani Libbok still. And thanks, brother. That's important. My worry is, is that Dialende? Too much involved in the forwards when we need him in the back line, says Christo. And please report on position of play on the field, says Ismail. I will try my best. We have been mentioning it a little bit, but maybe not as much as you would like. 38 metres out, like I said, for Mani Libbok's kick. Now, one, he shanked it away to the left again, and Libbok, he's left over 10 points out there on the field for South Africa now, which is hurting the overall scoring, sitting only 15 points to 13, 2 points up. Will be the 22 dropout for the Pumas. Change of ball, please, says the Jordan ref. Oh, that's why he's not the kicker in rugby. That was a rough one. It's a bad word, says Cited. And also Lowell says Albert in there. Looks like now number 20, Jean-Luc Dupré, getting the chance to make his way onto the field. And Herschel Yankees, the same. So two men who haven't actually had the opportunity at number, or any number, throughout this Rugby Championship campaign. And what to do when you love both teams, says Lelu. And also kicking for the box has been bad so far, says Cited. Andre stays and hits the ball up. That was a solid run from the inside centre. 45 metres out now. It's going to be Mani Libbok across to Vincent Koch. 24 minutes remaining. The Boks currently in the second half have had most of the momentum. Met a strange lady. She makes me nervous. She took me in and made me breakfast. Says I tuned. A nice commentary. Says Yako. Thank you very much, mate. Currently 45 metres out now for Herschel Yankees. Fires it across to Trevor Nakanya. They are yet to put Gerhard Stennekamp onto the field. The only other player for South Africa who hasn't had a chance throughout this Rugby Championship. Now, nicely taken by the Argentine winger Emiliano Boffelli. Makazole Mapimpi was also up, trying to go for it. And we have got their wire the box struggling like this, says Johan. I mean, the second half, they've been a lot stronger, though, for the Springboks. Compared to that first, they did struggle massively. Now, put up high again from Gonzalo Bertrano, running onto this one, not taken cleanly by Damien Valimza, who's done his knee. I don't know how serious this is. Looks like he's trying to walk on it. Hopefully he's just jarred it or come down on it awkwardly, and it won't be too bad overall. And now Bertrano gives it to Carreras. Rush defense from Kane and Moody. And the penalty won by the Springboks. They're 40 metres out. I think that they will kick this one for the corner, seeing as the kicking D hasn't quite been their best friend throughout this game. A great work from Canon Moody. Managed to get that turnover at an important time. Does Mani Libbok kick for the goalposts? I think that they want to go for their corner here. No, they're going for the shot again for Mani Libbok. I guess this is one way to try and build his confidence. But, you know, at some stage they may consider going for that corner rather than the three, mainly because Libbok is only sitting at about 50% for his kicking today. The under-20 is a great kicker from anywhere on the field, says Azrit. And also go for the post, says Ichude. And also we have got there, people are complaining about all of the changes, but the point of the warm-ups is to ensure the guys get enough game time, while also making sure the guys that are definitely going to the World Cup don't end up injured, but that they are healthy. It's difficult balance to strike as a coach. True, because A lot of people want to, of course, see the best side out there, but if some of those best side players do end up injured, it hurts you big time going into that World Cup. We saw for the All Blacks, they lost 2 players in this most recent game. Hopefully nothing too serious, but we've seen Damien Valimza, he just tweaked his knee a little bit. And then also, earlier on in the game, we did see Lukanyuam go off with the injury. Hey, Hamish, hope you're well, says Blind Bliss. I certainly am. Mani Libok, he'll be feeling a lot better if this kick does manage to go over. Australia will win the World Cup, says Mitch. The Mapimbi guy is not good at kicking, says Cited. Now 21 minutes remaining for the Boks to extend their lead. Mani Libok. He's got enough of that one. He's got some good distance, and it goes over the post this time, making it 18 points to 13. How many minutes left until the game ends? Currently, we are sitting 59 minutes through, so 21 minutes remaining. Close to 1,000 viewers, says Nazi Williams. Yeah, anyone who hasn't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Got plenty of games in the near future. It will be, I believe the next game we cover on the channel was actually Wales versus England. But before then, we've got World Cup squad announcements of the Springboks, of the All Blacks, of the Wallabies, and a few of the other teams announcing them as well. Good stuff. If you missed that, I think Mostert should start kicking, says Johan van der Merwe. And Ireland and France won't go past the quarterfinal, says Mitch there. So what if both of them play each other, Mitch? Because that is a possibility. And next weekend in Wales, or is Wales playing like this? The Boks can forget surviving the polar death in the Rugby World Cup, although they've got one more week. They've got 2 weeks till that game up against the Welsh. You seem to have a big South African base, and I think that is from all of the URC and the Curry Cup games that we have done in the past on the channel. We spent a lot of time doing those late night fixtures, trying to learn as much about these South African players as we physically could. Mani Libok going short side. Off now to Jean-Luc Dupré, and that is going to be the penalty to Argentina in the breakdown. I believe that might have been actually a South African player near neck roll for number 4, so that is against Jean Klein. And Argentina win the penalty. We have got there, we need Andre Pollard back. It's still 10 left on the park for Mani, says Adrian. We have also got there, morning Kiwi lads, just opened my eyes, how's Boks doing? Oh, in front they are, but they did have not the best first half. They are now starting to improve in the second. Still giving away far too many penalties though. We have seen in total 12 against South Africa, 9 against the Argentines. Now, Julian Montoya, chance here from 10 metres out from the line to now be able to get the rolling maul going. Nicely claimed by Guido Petty to come off the bench for this match. Gonzalo Bertrano waiting for this one at the back, but it looks like Julian Montoya may consider running instead now, gives it off to Bertrano. Lucio Cinti tries to step it on Andre Esterhuizen, is able to shut him down alongside Herschel Yankees. Now Lavanini, another carry. Vincent Koch takes him down early. It's a knock on, or is it? They said Bertrano's ball went backwards. It looked like it may have had a moment where it travelled forward. South Africa win the penalty in the breakdown, this time with Jean-Luc Dupré. Now inside of their 22, we'll look to kick this one downfield. Brother, how's Esterhuizen doing at centre? Still about the same as last time. He's had one run since the last time that you asked, but he's still making his tackles, which I think is the main thing for Andre Esterhuizen, and agrees, says Esme. And also, Boks should have brought in Kuhn Bosch, says Mark. Could have been an option. I think they've got a few fly halves lurking around in South Africa currently. I guess it's just that question of which player they will look to add in. How many screens do you have in front of you, says Yako. So I've got 2 active screens at the moment. So the game is on this one in the chat, and the live stream is on that one. We saw New Zealand struggle against Australia. Yeah, their standings haven't shifted much. This is actually just a warm-up for the World Cup, says Stan, and congrats on 1K viewers, says Bullabro. Thank you very much, mate. Hugely appreciated. Now, Joseph Dweber throws it in, slapped to the side by Jean-Luc Dupré. Now, Mani Libok puts the ball up high with a cross kick. Nicely taken by Santiago Carreras, but the space opens up now for, I believe it is going to be Cordero on this near side of the field. A little bit of an aimless kick from South Africa in that case. Now, going to be a Gamburano going to the right. Be Albanoz. Another offload there from Guido Petty. Buffelli, long way off his wing, but now they look to shift it out to that side that he was on. Looking for that pass, not able to get it. Burrano again, going off to Pablo Matera. Breaking through a couple tackles. He is a hard man to put down when he starts charging forward. This is not World Cup material. They need a lot of work, says Kayleen. And Chislin Colby playing Amish, he is not. They have got Kurtley Arunsa, who will be coming off the bench in the near future. I'm not too sure who he will be coming on the field for, though, perhaps. Well, that's the thing. The back three for South Africa in this game have played very well. Cannon Moody, Damian Balimza, and Makazole Mapimpi. So it's probably hard to pick who Kurtley Arunsa actually makes his way onto the field for. In that case, and Marks isn't playing Dweber, says Mitch. And there, that is Joseph Dweber, man who did come off the bench. We have got there, I don't believe it. Dweber actually got a line out, says Albert. And I completely agree with you. Lots of work ahead and preparations to be the best, says Johan. Now it will be the scrum beat on the halfway line for South Africa. This clock is going relatively slow in the second half, which I think will favour the South Africans just that little bit more, seeing as they have had that little bit more momentum in the second 30 or so minutes. No, they're resting for Chislin Colby for the next game, next week on Saturday, says Conway. And also we get there, Dweber is a plant, says Timothy. Now Herschel Yankees feed this ball in for the Springboks. I understand that New Zealanders start playing a form of rugby at age 5. On average, All Blacks have probably played rugby longer than have the Springboks. I suspect that makes a real difference, says Bill James. Cannon Moody on the short side. He was almost pushed into touch, but they do say play on. Just able to keep it in the field of play. Now Dion Fourie. This is one of the first runs we've seen from him. Great ankle tap on by Gonzalo Burrano, though, to be able to stop him. Now Lebok. Flat pass off to Franco Mostert. Started driving the legs. Looked for the offload. Herschel Yankees has to clean it up. Tap on from Mani Lebok. Now goes to Damian Balimza. They are going back again for another penalty. Now 14 minutes on the clock now. South Africa need a new fullback. Willie Leroux is done, says Yaka, although some people would argue that Willie Leroux at the moment is the first pick, number 15, with the way that he's played throughout the Rugby Championship. I feel he's been solid under the high ball. He's been able to get those kicks downfield and actually has been linking up very nicely with Mani Lebok. So maybe in a year or two, that is when Willie Leroux will hang up the boots. But for now, I think he's going to have a little bit more game time at number 15. And sorry, Mapimpi, you're great, but we got better wings now, says Christo. And either way, this game isn't going to be a draw, says Yeda. And with the fact that South Africa now lining up another kick here with Mani Lebok, sitting 3 from 7, 43% for throughout today. Hasn't quite been as successful as he would have liked. Now another chance here for him. Did Evan kill anybody yet? Not yet. Or wait, are you talking Evan Ruiz or Eben Etzebev? Because Etzebev not playing, Evan Ruiz recently coming off the bench for this game. And Scotland did a miracle against France. I've watched the game. Very impressive performance from the Scots, says Johan. Yes, second half was massive for them. Now Lebok. 1-2 has the distance and it's gone over. So that'll make the score now 21 points to 13. It's 8 points difference now. So a lot more in favour of South Africa. Of course, they could have had a few more points on the board if those other 4 kicks had been successful. They will still take an 8-point lead at this point. 2 balls on the field. They have to get rid of one of them. Great kick from, I believe that is going to be Albanoz. Will be kicking us off now once again. In this half, Evan Ruiz taken down nicely. Just moves outside of the 22, trying to pump those legs. It looks like Herschel Yankees will be considering going for the box kick once more. Eben is standing outside of the stadium and watching over the stands, says Johan. Now put high. Argentina not looking too safe under that high ball, and Makazole Mapimpi actually able to keep that ball for the Springboks. Herschel Yanchis tries to step around the side. Great work in the breakdown from Argentina. They get the turnover now. Bertrano gets the ball, gives it off to Santiago Carreras. He was running in support, but just a little bit in front of the defender, or of the attacker, so wasn't able to get that next pass. Big shot coming in. Frustration shown there by the big number 17 for Argentina. After dropping it, he does just push over Andre Esterhazen. Now Emiliano Borfelli looking to run it back. Great low tackle made on him by Damian Balimza. And now the scrum feed for South Africa after the knock-on. And Moody didn't play himself into the team with this game. Or if Moody didn't play himself into the team with this game, I don't know. Says LB. And also, what's the score? Says Wesley currently sitting 21 points to 13 in favour of the South Africans, with 11 minutes still remaining on the clock. We have got there, you see the game. How is Lebok doing tonight? Is he our answer? I mean, off the kicking tee, he has been struggling big time. Only sitting with that 4 from 8, 50%. A little bit too low, I would say. But overall in the running game, like, he hasn't looked too bad at all. Mani Lebok linking up quite nicely with his teammate Damian Balimza, and now having Herschel Yankees there as well. Quite a few Stormers players getting the chance. Is that 4-7 success rate? Says Johan. So yeah, now he is sitting 4 from 8 for this one. And come on, somebody do something. Get over the try line, please. Says Ruth. Here we have seen limited tries in this match. South Africa throughout that Rugby Championship, averaging 4. Argentina are only averaging that 2.5, and South Africa now get themselves another penalty. The legs getting swept out from underneath the Argentine front row. If I was the Springboks, I would kick for the corner here. You're already up by 8 points. They're going to take on another 3. It doesn't really change too much for them in the overall scheme of the game. And thanks, I love your answer, says Christo. And almost done, boss. 10 minutes left. Sleep soon, says Blues Nate. Not quite. The plan after this, we are going to be filming the podcast with Rugby Itch, where we do a little bit of a review of the international games of rugby. And then me and George are going to be climbing up a hill or a big mountain. Well, it's not quite a mountain, but it's a very steep hill. So it will feel like a mountain for this one. And does it look like Andre Esterhazen is going to make it to the World Cup? To be honest, this performance I don't think has done him any favours in that World Cup selection. I don't think he's really stepped up to the point that he would have liked to. Is Evan Ruiz on yet? He is. He's just made the one tackle, I believe, other than that, being relatively quiet. Go Scotland, says Francois. Now Lebok. So we'll use up a little bit more time on the clock as well for the Springboks. South Africa is blessed with talent. We just need better coaching staff, says Notakaza. Lebok. Probably taken the longest that he ever has for his kicks in this game. And I don't know whether or not maybe that has something to do with just trying to really focus on them. Straight down the middle for that one. Now moves up to 5 from 9. And the score 24 points to 13 in favour of South Africa. This 3-pointer just takes the draw out of the game for the Boks. Says Roger. Augustine Crevi, the most capped Argentine player of all time. First ever Argentine to bring up 100 caps. So a massive achievement for Augustine Crevi. Hoping that it could be a victory for the Argentines. The ball's knocked back from Damian Balimza. And Vincent Koch hits it up to 25 metres out from the own line. Now Herschel Yankees. Shot coming in again from Santiago Carreras. We do see Lautaro Bazin Velez has made his way out there. And Lebok's head is not in the game, says Kayleen. And is the box scrum dominant? To be honest, we haven't really seen a huge amount of scrums in this contest, or notable scrums that have had a big push from either side. So I would say probably not as dominant as they would have liked. They've won a couple penalties though in the second half when they've made those changes, handing Vincent Koch as well as I think they've stuck with Driven and Kanye just for a little bit longer. That's a knock-on from South Africa. So we are now going to get to see the scrum, of course, with me jinxing it. Why don't they show the kicking timer for this game, says Cited. I'd assume that they have it somewhere. Maybe at the ground on a scoreboard or somewhere around the ground. Maybe this one in behind me on this side. with the Coke sponsor. I don't know why they've got a massive Coke can there, but how many litres do we think that thing would hold? It's got to be a few tons worth of a liquid, surely. Oh, we have got there, is your suit dirty after today, says Yako? No, it's all right. It's just the fact that it was so cold here in New Zealand. I had to wrap up a little bit warmer. Great commentary here. Just a minor point. The names Valimza and Arinsa will have their first syllable stressed. Rinza and Vilimza, says Tommy. So I will take it into consideration. Hopefully do a little bit better. Are you sponsored by Coke? No, not myself. It is just the background of the stadium. I assume that the ground is sponsored by Coke. Perhaps. It's gone down the front rows. Now, going to the short side here. Cordero, under huge pressure. Herschel Yankees able to take him down low. Over the ball for South Africa once more. And Jean-Luc Duprea does manage to get the turnover penalty. Every breakdown at the moment has just instantly been won by the Boks. The Boks needs Dobson guidance to peak, says Herke, and I believe he will have another opportunity to kick this one for the corner or for the post. 13 penalties against Argentina, 12 against South Africa, and now they do look to go for the corner. Still was able to break the defence twice with one player in the bin, Mitch. Says it was there from Johan. Argentina, it just hasn't gelled in the second 40 minutes. I mentioned it at half-time, how quickly it can change. I mentioned about it for the All Blacks game, how they were down at half-time, came back to win it. Mentioned it about the Scotland game, down at half-time, came back to win it. South Africa, they were down at half-time. And the trend at the moment, it's looking like they are going to be able to win this game. They've got the penalty advantage for Argentina pre-engaging in that rolling maul. The discipline has just gone to shreds for the Pumas in the second 40 minutes of the contest. But playing under penalty advantage, Vincent Koch now. It's a little bit closer to the try line. Thank you, great commentary by a Kiwi. Says Trader Andre, thank you very much, mate. I'm back for the penalty now. That's a double blow of the whistle. I think that this will be the last warning here for the South Africans, just due to how many times in a row we have seen these penalties going against Argentina. Like this, we will go like that. There we go. Looks like South Africa are actually considering just taking the quick tap. Just throwing Joseph de Weber at the line. How much time is left? Only another 4.5 minutes remaining. Can you choose man of the match for now? I would say it probably either goes to Damian Valimza or Kanan Moody in this game. I can't believe some of the negative comments from Bok fans, and yet we're all over Argentina crazy, says Jose. That's going to be knocked on by the Springboks. For me, clear knock on, says the Georgian ref. I don't think they're going to go upstairs to check it. Like I said, South Africa won't score here, says Mitch. What made the difference in the Boks second half? I think it's just that intensity. They came out firing and they made sure that that was the way it stayed. They tried to push Argentina in the first 10 or so minutes of that half, and they were just seemingly on a different level for the second 40 minutes. And scoreboard pressure affecting Argentina, says Gerard. And 24-13, says Ari. For the score line, and South Africa suck at scoring tries. You can't run it over. With your forwards, you always get held up, says Mitch. And it is now going to be the goal line dropout for Argentina. Big run for Andre Esterhuizen. Bumping off one player, but tackled by Matthias Maroni. Now Evan Ruiz tackled strongly by Augustin Crevi. Yanchis going off to the left. Big shot coming in on a man who didn't actually have the ball, so it could end up with an advantage in favour of the Boks. Now, Gerhard Stennekamp on debut for this game, not given a huge amount of time. Massive shot coming in from Pablo Matero on his opposite number. And Dion Foree. Yankees again going back across to Franco Mostert. Vincent Koch finds the offload away to Jean Klein. It's expected to play the full 80 minutes in this one. Now Yankees again. Goes off to Ruiz. Tries to get the legs pumping. South Africa, it seems like maybe their scoring is not done for this 80 minutes. Still 3 minutes on the clock. Jean-Luc and Ruiz look the same from a distance, says Albert. I think it's because Evan Ruiz actually got a haircut And I think he must have gone to the same barber as Jean-Luc Dupré. Another cross kick attempted from Mani Libok. Just a little bit too much on it. Moody not able to quite catch it. And also we have got there, you got photo ID. Brandon says Blues Nate, and the ABs, I would have scored there no problem, says Mitch, although they actually got held up again in a few of their games of the Rugby Championship, although they did manage to score more tries throughout the 3 games. But then South Africa still averaged 4 tries per game, which is pretty impressive for them. I know that they've been criticised in the past for their try-scoring abilities, but they have still been able to win a lot of contests over the last little while. And Moody for man of the match, yeah, I think he's got to be right up there. Either him or Damien Vilimza, I would say, are the 2 options. Now it's going to be kicked high. Callum Moody takes it nicely, gives it off to Damien Vilimza. And now passes back to Moody. Wide cut out past to Makazole Mapimpi. Driving on top of Matthias Maroni. Short side for Dion Fourie. Shut down again. They have been able to keep him out of the game relatively well when it comes to the attack. Inside ball from Joseph Dweber to Jean-Luc Dupré. Get him within 2 metres. Evan Ruiz now. Turned over to his back. I believe that was double movement. In fact, they may actually check this one first for Evan Ruiz. Yeah, I've got there. Thanks again for the info, says Street Boy. No worries at all. Anyone who is new to the channel, don't be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more action coming in the near future on the channel. So if you are new, hit that subscribe button. It is hugely appreciated. Moody came and he ate, leaving no crumbs. Says it was there from Kayleen. They just want to go upstairs to check this one to see whether or not Evan Ruiz has been able to get over the try line. They're saying there might have been a bit of obstruction, possibly before the try break. And Santos has said, I subscribe for you. Thank you very much, mate. Now, 1 minute 20 remaining. I believe with the time, even if this is a try, we will still have... No, he's propelled himself forward a little bit there, but if they consider it the same motion, I think that will be a try for Evan Ruiz. Oh, the try is good by the sounds of it. I think they've said in Johan, I see you better with 14 men on the field. More chance of scoring a try then, says Mitch. And great commentary, thanks. Have a nice day, the Kiwi lad, says Yako. Yeah, right back at you. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying your evening in South Africa. Hope you're excited for on Tuesday when they do announce that side. They will be heading to the World Cup, but we will be covering it on the channel as well. Moody to Libok. They're just showing the wide cutout replay to see whether or not there was obstruction. Commentators are saying it was just a defender being beaten. Evan Ruiz, he propels himself forward with his elbow and maybe that knee. So it's whether or not they consider it as the first movement or whether they say that he was already tackled and then propelled himself forward, which you are not allowed to do. And really, really appreciate Amish says not your everyday cultist. It's going to be no try. And it's going to be 5 metres outside of the 22. By the sounds of it, it's actually going to end up being a penalty to Argentina for obstruction. And he is still crying. Says running stories, and thanks for the commentary, mate. Says, Joss, no worries at all. Now 1 minute and a half remaining. Argentina looking to have one last crack. Get within the 7 points. The last game between these two sides, it ended 22 points to 21. This game, if Argentina score, it will be relatively similar to that scoreline. But the Boks, the better second half. Argentina, you would argue, the better first half. Springbok's been a lot more clinical in the second 40 of the game. Now Albanoz going on the outside. Matthias Maroni rush defence there. Knock on from Argentina, which means we've got one scrum remaining. And by the time this ball goes in and goes out, I believe we will be very close to full time. Pumas to score now, says Cited. And how much time left on the clock? Currently only 45 seconds remaining on the clock. Kick that subscribe button into touch. And a box kick that like button right now. Chur. Says James. Yeah, anyone who hasn't already, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 30,000. So do hit that button if you haven't already. You are the Kiwi Hugh Bladen. Good stuff, says David. And we have also got there, not sure, Mitch. They are struggling versus the Aussies, and they are worse than the RGs. Says MC, and scrum and try, says Johan. See, that's the thing. They're on the halfway line. And South Africa, they have to make a decision here whether or not they want to go for one last attack or whether they do want to just kick this ball into touch and keep the win being 24 points to 13. Congrats on the 30k, bro, says Johan. Although we haven't quite hit it yet, we are on 27,000, but we are getting very close. Yankees back into the pocket. Lebok will put the ball into touch, and that is the end of the game. The Springboks victorious, 24 points to 23. It's been a gritty, grindy game for both of these teams, but Argentina unable to get themselves enough points in that second half. Nice moment there between Augustin Crevi as well as Vincent Koch and Dion Forey, all congratulating him for being able to bring up that 100 caps. We've got there the MMA Soiru has donated and said mince on toast. And they're off to bed. It's 11 a.m. already. You must enjoy your day. Yao lekker ding, says Kayleen. So yao lekker ding to you too for tomorrow when you do end up getting up in the morning. The ref was shocking towards Argentina. What a horrible ref, says Mitch. The ref won the game for South Africa. And cheers, Hamish. Have a really good day. My man says not your everyday cultist. And Mitch is such a troll, says Sir MC. We get those occasionally on the channel. It would seem. And thank you, Kiwi lads. Best regards from Italy, says Juan in there as well. Tell you what, the seat has got even harder than what I remember it. I feel like I actually am going to have to try and climb that hill just to get feeling back into my buttocks. Is that too much information? I feel like kind of a little bit maybe, but too much. And thank you for your absolutely amazing commentary once again, says Jacqueline. No worries at all. And thanks for the commentary, says Okurt. And also we have got their well done Bockies, said Deal there as well. But the two try scorers for the South Africans, we saw Makazole Mapimpi getting themselves the try, and then also Kanamudi out on the other wing getting the other one for Argentina. Just the lone try. It was off a quick tap, and it was Gonzalo Bertrano who was able to get himself over the line and score that try for the Springboks. One moment, we will go like this. Argentina 13, 24 for South Africa at full time. We'll put that down the bottom just in case we do need it. And cheers again, Hamish. Irish game are just over definitely Ireland now. Have a lot of work to do. And congratulations to South Africa. I had hoped Argentina would have won, but congratulations nonetheless. And also, Lekker boys, says Albert. And good job on the coverage, man. Bryce says, Johan, and hey man, thanks for the rugby. Me going to sleep, says Dylan. And the chat, but yeah, it is a relatively late night finish for you guys in South Africa. 11 p.m. South African time for this game to come to a close, which is, like I mentioned, a lot later than we would normally see for rugby games in South Africa. This game was actually originally going to be 3 hours later, though, so that would have been a pretty rough late night. And thank you for the commentary. Appreciate the work you've been doing. Says Bulla Bro. It's been a busy 24 hours. We've covered 4 games of international rugby. We've done probably around 13 hours of live commentary, as well as being awake for approximately 21 hours straight now for all the matches. But it's been entertaining. It's been a great roller coaster of action. And yeah, I thank you all very much for being here throughout this game to be able to make these so much fun. Give me so many people to be able to chat to. Great commentary, dude, says Archie Bargy. And also we have got there, good night, Hamish, get some rest, buddy, says Ruth. And also we have got there, Lol Yucko, he looks lekker, says Kayleen. And there as well. And Hamish, it's time for you to get that hard-earned sleep. Get like 10 hours, please, says Not Your Everyday Cultist. Although I think the plan is going to be to go to sleep a little bit later on in the afternoon. We've got a podcast to film straight after this with myself and Rugby Itch. And then from there we are going to be me and George going for a walk. Seeing as it's sunny, it's currently 1 degree Celsius outside, so it's a bit cold, but just having a walk after sitting still for so long, I feel like might be quite nice to be able to stretch the legs. And true, we can make it in the semis, or make it to the semis, says Max Power. And thanks, Hamish. Got a bit scrappy there. Some weird calls by the ref, for me to be honest, says Charles. And enjoy the hike, dude. Be safe, says Johan. And 21 days no sleep when the Rugby World Cup starts, says the MMA Sawyer. Exactly right. There's going to be a lot of sleepless nights over the weekend, working during the week as well. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be a lot of fun, though, watching all of those games. And I think the bags under my eyes are going to get even bigger than they are already sitting. My eyes are very badly bloodshot as well. Luckily, you can't really see them due to the lighting. It makes it just that little bit better. But before we do go, ladies and gentlemen, we have got ourselves a guest on the channel. I mentioned how I am going to be going away and filming a podcast very soon, and my guest, or our podcast, very soon, it is this man who is about to pop up to my side. It is Rugby Itch. Does support the Springboks. Hello, mate. What do you think of the game overall? It would have been a frustrating watch, was it?
Yes, it was. It was very frustrating. I mean, particularly from a kicking standpoint, I was like, "What is Livok doing?" Like, I was like every single time they're like, "No, just give Livok another opportunity." I was like, "Guys, what do you do? You've seen him miss 3 kicks in a row." I just did not understand what the Boks were doing. But I guess at the end of the day, we obviously got the result. It's what matters. It's just one of those games where there was a lot of mistakes in it, but also a lot of brilliance actually at the same time. You know, Livok, it's one of those he's one of those. He had a weird game because his kicking was really just not in the best place. It'd be perfectly honest. Like when you compare it towards like Santiago Caceres, he was like on a different level compared to him. Like his kicking was perfect whenever they're going for the lineouts and everything. But I guess obviously that try, you know, that kind of set up for Kid and Moody, you know, the long kick down towards the wing. I was like, oh my gosh, like what have I seen here? So you can kind of say it made up for obviously the previous kicks beforehand. But yeah, no, very happy as a Bok fan, very happy indeed.
Because their back three was phenomenal, I thought, for the Springboks in this game. Makazole Mapimpi, Canon Moody, and then also did Kurtley Arinsa make his way onto the field?
I'm not even sure. This is the thing. I can't even remember.
Did he get a chance?
I don't think he did.
Because I know that, maybe he went on for Moody right near No, Moody had the ball up until that final try opportunity. Maybe they didn't even decide to use Kurtley Arinsa for this game. I know that they made that change of Jesse Creel a little bit earlier on due to that injury of Lucanio arm. Hopefully nothing too serious in that regard. I've got there. Thanks a stack for your liquor commentary, says Tommy. The marathon of rugby matches is irresistible, says Tommy. And luckily next week, I mean, it's not quite a marathon that we will be doing for ourselves, but we've got 2 games back-to-back that we'll be covering. England versus Wales and also Scotland taking on the French. And the rematches, those 2 ones are going to be entertaining. We will be talking about that on the podcast as well, that we are filming straight after this. So be sure to check out the rugby recap. And also, I have a little task for some of our viewers here. This is Rugby Itch. As some of you guys know, we've done a lot of videos in the past. He is currently 6 subscribers away from hitting his 1,000. Yeah. So, anyone who has the ability of doing so and also would like to help support him, if you do like your rugby content, be sure to check him out. I'll put the link in the description. Be sure to give him a like, give him a subscribe, and maybe, just maybe, by the end of the stream, which is closing in about 2 minutes or so, I will mention. So it's close to closing time. But let's see if we can get Rugby Itch to 1K. He deserves it. He's been doing this YouTube gig for quite some time now, alongside doing a dissertation and doing study.
Doing masters, it's hectic. It's hectic. Doing university along with this YouTube has just been, it's been a disaster for a recipe. But at the same time, I love it. So yeah, obviously continue with the grind. But yeah, no, just a good game overall. I mean, like, what do you think in terms of the man of match, by the way? Who was your man of match for this game?
I would give it to either Canon Moody or Damien Valimza. I can't quite decide.
Yeah, I agree. I say Canon Moody.
I tell you what, okay, then I'll say Damien Valimza and we've got them both covered. That works well.
There you go.
Nice. Too easy. But yeah, I think that overall for the Springboks, any players who were just on the verge of getting themselves selection for the World Cup, the likes of a Canon Moody, I feel like this game secured his spot because he didn't have the best game in the first match up against Australia, but this game vastly improved. Someone like a Makazole Mapimpi, I think...
I don't think he gets selected, by the way. I think there's a shock. The thing is that a lot of people have been saying this, is like where within that wing department, one big player is going to miss out, I think. And a lot of people are saying it could be Caden Moody. But again, it depends on like who they choose in the the forwards as well, because maybe you consider, I don't know, like if you count like Franco Mostert, for example, if you use him as like a lock, kind of like a cover as a lock, then you can remove one of those players. Like, I don't know, you could do like Marvin Alway, for example. He's up for the squad. You remove him out of the picture. You put Franco Mostert as kind of a cover for that as well, and then it allows Kenny Moody to come in. But I don't know. I mean, there's Mbimpy, who I think you can't like. Again, I know he's out of form, but you got to stick with him. I mean, he literally resembles the box. So I think you got to keep him on for this one. You have Chisholm Kobe. You got to keep Curtly Lorenza. He's probably the best informed winger in probably this whole season, really, of the rugby championship, I'd say. But yeah, so he definitely has to be in. And then I mean, what you have like, yeah, I mean, you have Caden Moody, but do you do it? I'm not sure. It's interesting because you have like Willie LaRue, you Dylan Williamson. I mean, it's a lot of options.
I believe they may consider Willemse now after this performance. They've got to pick him as a fullback, don't they?
Oh,
fly half wise.
You're always going to pick him. Yeah,
I think it's going to be tricky in terms of who else gets a fly half chance because Marnie Libok is definitely the start. I've got some news for you, Tim, though.
Oh, it's on 1K, I believe. Let's see. Ooh!
Is that your... I don't have any like little party poppers that I'd normally have.
I don't know.
I tell you what, I've got a picture of a donkey. Will that do?
That will definitely do. That will definitely
do. One moment. We've got to find the donkey. Where's it gone?
Ooh, let's see.
Here we go. Boom! Donkey.
Wait. If I do... what?
Is it a double-ended donkey?
Yeah, the double-ended donkey.
Double-ended donkey. That sounds like a weird name for like an adult movie. The double-ended donkey. But
I mean, now you've said that, it definitely does. But
congratulations, mate, in the 1K.
A new movie coming to cinemas soon.
Maybe not actually having donkeys in it because that might be quite bad. But
that would be very bad. But
yeah,
recently they've done a lot of animals in movies. Like I saw there was like cocaine bear or something like that. Like there's like even like a new one. Have you not seen that? There's like a cocaine bear. That's like a whole like, oh mate, it's actually
like Yogi Bear's gone rogue or something. Or?
Literally. It's incredible. Like it's like this bear. Like he stumbles upon literally a whole bag of it, eats it, and it just goes outrageous, really, with everything. So it's kind of funny. But
there you go. I know what I'm going to be watching this afternoon, don't I?
Exactly.
Nice horse. Says Ruth and Scottish Wonky Donkey. Says Lelu. And then Libok Willemse combo is fire. It's the combination that they've used throughout the URC. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is the combination that the Boks look to use when Willie LaRue isn't playing. Although the thing is, Marnie Libok, aside from his kicking at times, he seems to be able to partner well with Willie LaRue and with Damien Willemse. So that is quite a useful thing to have when your fly half can adapt to either player and be able to create some great moments with both of them. But nonetheless, I think we are near the end of this live stream. Once again, thank you all very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. It's been hugely appreciated you all being here for this live stream and all of the live streams throughout the last about 16 hours, somewhere around there.
That's a long time.
Absolutely awesome seeing you all here from all around the world. Anyone who hasn't already, be sure to check out Rugby Itch, and of course, be sure to check out the Rugby Recap as well, our channel, where we will have the podcast going up in the near future, about 24 hours time. Yeah, I believe is when it will be coming up.
Like immediately after. I mean, to be fair, if you guys really want the content as soon as possible, we can post it early. But I think most likely we'll post it like tomorrow night. I'll probably say roughly tomorrow night.
Around there, yeah. But that is a link with the Rugby Recap down there. Be sure to check that out as well. And yeah, plenty more videos and streams coming up on there in the future. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you all for the next one.